Chapter 851 Are you willing to give me this good thing? Fiheng immortal boat parked quietly outside Qunren world. Lu Chen stood on the roof of Fiazhu's palace and took a look at the entire Qunren world. Nangang Yuehua's female officer has told Lu Chen about the situation in Qunren world. Qunren world has a lot of minerals. Because of the rich mineral resources, almost every cultivator has a spiritual sword. This is a sword-based cultivator. Lord's world. Of course, the spiritual swords in this world are not of high quality. At this time, Lu Chen directly controlled the ferry boat and flew into the Qunren world. When the Fiheng ferry boat entered the Tianchen world, the Qunren world suddenly trembled, and the spiritual energy also appeared abnormal. Obviously, the consciousness of heaven in Qunren world has noticed that there is a huge threat entering Qunren world. The consciousness of the way of heaven is relatively sensitive to the power of the origin. The power of the origin of the universe contains the superior laws and has a strong suppression on the consciousness of the way of heaven. Lu Chen also immediately noticed that the consciousness of heaven in Qunren world was afraid of him. Lu Chen closed his eyes, and then said to the heavenly Dao of Qunren world, I only need half of the luck of Qunren world, and I will not continue to harvest the luck of Qunren world from now on. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Qunren world's consciousness of heaven sent chi transport to Lu Chen without hesitation. It could hear that this human monk was not lying. Feeling the growing luck in his body, the corners of Lu Chen's mouth slightly raised. Now he could help a wife and concubine give birth to a child. This world was created by Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinja together, and Lu Chen planned to give one of them the opportunity to have a child. However, both of them have contributed, but there is only one quota, which is difficult to allocate. I don't know who should be given it better. Just when Lu Chen was thinking about who should give this opportunity to give birth to a child, Nangang Qinja and Nangang Yuehua appeared in front of Lu Chen at the same time. The two women saluted at the same time and said, Greetings to His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven. Lu Chen came back to his senses and glanced at the two women. No courtesy. You have worked hard. Nangang Yuehua asked, I wonder how your Majesty plans to deal with Qunren world. There are many forces in the Qunren world and are not qualified for unified dynasty management. If you want to control the Qunren world, you need a spokesperson for the Great Xia Dynasty. Although Qunren world is just a low-level world, Qunren world is on the route away from the Chaos Star Sea. In the future, whether Lu Chen wants to move or the Great Xia Dynasty wants to expand, Qunren world can play the role of a transfer station. Qunren world still has some effects on the Great Xia Dynasty. Lu Chen thought for a while and then said, I plan to let the Great Xia Dynasty directly manage Qunren world and station a legion in Qunren world. Since the Qunren world is on the route away from the Chaos Star Sea, the Qunren world is equivalent to the portal of the Great Xia Dynasty. Since it is a portal, it must be taken seriously and heavily guarded. Seeing that Lu Chen already had a plan to manage the world of Qunren, the two women stopped interfering. They just helped Lu Chen expand, and as for other things, they could just let Lu Chen arrange it. Nangang Yuehua then said, Since your Majesty has already made arrangements in his mind, I will not disturb your Majesty. I will let someone handle the handover with the Dragon War Army. As soon as she finished speaking, Nangang Yuehua turned around and prepared to leave. As soon as she turned around, Lu Chen said, Yuehua, please wait for a while. I have something else to talk to you about. Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua's heart trembled slightly. Lu Chen knew what he wanted from them without having to guess. This guy just came to Qunren world. Instead of going to see the situation in Qunren world, he immediately approached the two of them to do that kind of thing. He really looked more and more like a fool. Although Nangang Yuehua scolded Lu Chen Hunjun in his heart, he still agreed, Yes, Your Majesty. Nangang Qinja was not as repulsive as Nangang Yuehua. As a depraved evil cultivator, she was eager for Lu Chen to reward her. Then the two girls followed Lu Chen to Lu Chen's palace in Xianzhou. The palace is magnificent and magnificent. In the middle of the hall is a huge bed, almost 10 meters long and 10 meters wide. There is a huge red curtain hanging on the beam. When the red curtain is lowered, it can cover the entire bed. After entering the main hall, Nangang Kinja came to the bedside without hesitation, while Nangang Yuehua was a little hesitant. She stood several meters away from the bed and did not dare to get close. Lu Chen didn't make any moves as soon as he came up. He looked at Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Kinja again at this time. I have absorbed enough luck recently and can help one of you give birth to a sub-world. Who of you wants to want this sub-world? Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Kinja were slightly stunned. Sub-world? What is that? Compared to Lu Chen's wives and concubines in the Tianchen world, Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Kinja didn't know much about Lu Chen's affairs. They had been in the Xiang world for a long time and had hardly heard about the affairs of the Xiang world. Nangang Kinja asked, Your Majesty, does the sub-world you refer to the small world opened by the monks in the Ruins realm? When monks reach the Return to Ruins realm, they can open up a small world. Lu Chen replied, There are some similarities, but there are also differences. The sub-world we nurtured together can give birth to life on its own, and the luck generated by the life born can be absorbed by us. The most important thing is that the sub-world will produce the original power. With the power of origin, your realm will improve faster. Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua was slightly moved. Although Nangang Yuehua didn't know much about the sub-world, she became interested in it instantly when she heard that the sub-world could help cultivators practice. If she could give birth to a sub-world, would her cultivation level improve faster? However, there was only one quota. Thinking of this, Nangang Yuehua glanced at Nangang Kinja with the corner of her eyes. She knew that Nangang Kinja was more trusted by Lu Chen than herself. Nangang Kinja's life essence and blood were in Lu Chen's hands, and she had completely become Lu Chen's person. If Lu Chen wanted to help them give birth to a sub-world, he would probably choose Nangang Kinja instead of her. Just as Nangang Yuehua was thinking this, Nangang Kinja said, Your Majesty, give this opportunity to my sister. Seeing that Nangang Kinja took the initiative to give up this opportunity, Nangang Yuehua was stunned for a moment. She didn't expect Nangang Kinja to be so generous. No, Nangang Kinja might have felt that there was some negative impact, so she gave this opportunity to herself. Lu Chen glanced at Nangang Yuehua, then asked with a smile, Yuehua, do you want this opportunity? Nangang Yuehua asked back, Is there any negative impact in nurturing a child world? Lu Chen said, There is no negative impact. Not only is there no negative impact, but it is also equivalent to helping you have a small world in advance. In addition, I will help all my wives and concubines to nurture a child world, but I don't have enough luck now. Nangang Yuehua glanced at Nangang Kinja again, Are you willing to give me this good thing? End of this chapter. Chapter 852, Rainbow Queen. Although Nangang Kinja and Nangang Yuehua are sisters, as the spokespersons of the Great Xia Dynasty in the Xiang world, they also have a certain competitive relationship. Of course, the things they compete for are different. As an evil cultivator, Nangang Kinja is competing for Lu Chen's favor, while Nangang Yuehua is competing for status and the cultivation resources given by Lu Chen. Although it seems that the two are competing for different things, in fact, the deep logic is similar. In Nangang Yuehua's view, she and Nangang Kinja are both spokespersons arranged by the Great Xia Dynasty in the Xiang world. If Nangang Kinja gets more favor from Lu Chen, she will naturally not be so concerned about her. It is impossible for her to think of her first when giving her cultivation resources or any good things. Many times when Lu Chen goes to the Xiang world, he stays longer with Nangang Kinja than with her. Of course, this is just Nangang Yuehua's opinion. What she doesn't know is that she and Nangang Kinja have their own characteristics, and Lu Chen treats them both the same. One is dignified and elegant, which makes people want to conquer, and the other likes to cling to people, which can also make Lu Chen feel violent. Nangang Yuehua doesn't think that Nangang Qinja gave this opportunity to herself out of kindness. Seeing Nangang Yuehua so vigilant, Nangang Qinja said lightly, "Didn't His Majesty say that he would help all his wives and concubines to give birth to children in the future? Since His Majesty treats them equally, it doesn't matter to me if it's one day earlier or later. And sister, haven't you always been upset that I broke through to the spiritual transformation realm before you? Then I won't compete with you this time." Although Nangang Qinja said it nicely and looked like a good sister, Nangang Yuehua still didn't think Nangang Qinja was so kind. But she still couldn't guess Nangang Qinja's true intention, so she simply stopped guessing. Seeing that Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinja didn't say anything else, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Okay, let's leave this opportunity to Yuehua." At this time, Nangang Qinja said on the side, "Your Majesty, when you help her to breed a sub-world, can I watch from the side? I am a little curious about how Your Majesty helps her to breed a sub-world." Lu Chen said with a smile, "Of course." Hearing Nangang Qinja's words, Nangang Yuehua also had a trace of curiosity in her heart. She also wanted to know how Lu Chen helped others to breed a sub-world. Lu Chen said before that the sub-world is equivalent to a small world. It stands to reason that only cultivators can open up a small world. How can Lu Chen help others to open up a small world? Besides, her current cultivation is not yet at the stage where she can open up a small world. Just when Nangang Yuehua was speculating on what Lu Chen would do next, Lu Chen directly came to Nangang Yuehua with a teleportation. Lu Chen's sudden approach scared Nangang Yuehua. She just reacted, and the next moment Lu Chen pulled her body into his arms. Before she could say anything, Lu Chen used teleportation again, and then the two bodies appeared on the big bed. Nangang Yuehua was pressed down by Lu Chen. Lu Chen looked down at the dignified, elegant, and noble queen under him. Feeling Lu Chen's restlessness, Nangang Yuehua instantly understood what Lu Chen was going to do. She was about to speak, and Lu Chen leaned down and covered her lips. Tear. This bastard. Lu Chen did not give Nangang Yuehua too much preparation time, and directly entered the state of cultivating feelings with her. Seeing this scene, Nangang Qinja's mouth corners slightly raised. As expected, as she guessed, Lu Chen's way of helping his wives and concubines to conceive was to do this kind of thing, otherwise Lu Chen would not have brought them to this room. Nangang Qinja knew what this room was for. At this time, Nangang Qinja took out a round stone and input spiritual power into it. This was the photo stone they found in a sect when they attacked the Qunran world. The projection stone can record what is happening at the moment, and in the future, as long as you input spiritual power, you can play the recorded images. After she guessed how Lu Chen helped his wives and concubines to give birth to children, she thought of using the projection stone to record the scene of Lu Chen confronting Nangang Yuehua. Nangang Yuehua has always said that she is shameless. After having this thing, let's see if Nangang Yuehua dares to say it in the future. A moment later, Nangang Yuehua's voice echoed in the hall. In order to infuse Nangang Yuehua with luck as soon as possible, Lu Chen showed no mercy. Seeing Lu Chen so fierce, Nangang Qinja was extremely happy. "Yes, that's it. Kill her." At this time, Nangang Yuehua felt like she had turned into an animal and was fighting with Lu Chen. At the same time, in a corner of the hall, a woman in a red dress looked at the scene in the bedroom expressionlessly. The woman's figure was looming and flickering, and it looked like she had no body. Seeing Lu Chen so fierce, Tianhong Empress snorted coldly, thinking that if he was so obsessed with women, he would never become an emperor again. It was probably impossible to rely on this guy to restore his body. I really didn't know why she was brought here by the red sedan chair. Although she was dead, she was still an emperor. She was a great emperor. She was the spirit of Fiheng Xianzhou, and she was driving the boat for a lustful man. This made her feel very uncomfortable. At this time, the Rainbow Queen recalled what happened before her death. She vaguely remembered that she was fighting against the demons in the battlefield outside the domain, and was ambushed by several emperors and eventually died. However, she was not really dead. Her soul fell into a deep sleep. Logically speaking, if the soul of the emperor was not dead, then the emperor was equivalent to being alive. It is very easy for a great emperor to reshape the body, but her soul seemed to be imprisoned by something, and she has been unable to reshape the body. At this time, the Rainbow Queen thought that perhaps it was because her soul was divided into several parts when her body died, so she could not reshape the body. She lost a lot of memories, and the missing memories were probably taken away by other souls. At this time, the Rainbow Queen recalled the day when she met the red sedan chair in the battlefield outside the domain. She remembered that in order to reshape her body, she planned to return to this universe first, and happened to meet the red sedan chair at this time. As an emperor, she saw the extraordinariness of the red sedan chair at that time, so she planned to refine the red sedan chair. As a result, the red flower sedan seemed to have consciousness and lured her to the Fiheng Xianzhou, and then she was suppressed by a powerful force and became the spirit of the Fiheng Xianzhou. Later, she vaguely heard a voice saying that the future owner of the Fiheng Xianzhou could help her reshape her body and restore her cultivation to the level of the great emperor. When she thought of this, the eyes of the Tianhong Empress fell on the ups and downs of the figure in the middle of the hall again. Can this guy really help her restore her body and let her return to the peak of the great emperor? Dream on. End of this chapter. Chapter 853 Nangang Yuehua is pregnant with a child. Empress Tianhong has been observing Lu Chen since she woke up. Although Lu Chen's cultivation level improved very quickly at the beginning, in her opinion, those who rely on dual cultivation to improve their cultivation level quickly are frivolous and have an unstable foundation. They will definitely not be able to achieve enlightenment and become an emperor in the future. As an emperor, she has lived for countless years and has seen many people who have achieved enlightenment and become emperors. She has never seen anyone become an emperor through the method of dual cultivation. Even those evil cultivators, demonic cultivators, and dual cultivators are only an auxiliary cultivation method for them. This lustful man's attempt to double-correct the Tao Emperor is tantamount to wishful thinking. But then again, Empress Tianhong looked at Lu Chen's stirring figure quietly, and found that there was a trace of original power exuding from his body. This guy is not even the great emperor, so why can he obtain the original power? Empress Tianhong felt very puzzled by this. Not everyone can control the power of the source. Under normal circumstances, only when you reach the realm of the great emperor can you have access to the power of the source. This little guy has just reached the realm of gods, and he actually possesses the power of origin. It seems that he has a big secret. Maybe he might be the reincarnation of a certain emperor. At the same time, while Lu Chen was busy, he suddenly noticed a figure in the corner of the hall. Seeing the looming woman in red, Lu Chen was a little confused as to why the weapon spirit of Fiheng Xianzhou came to this room today. Of course, the ferry boat spirit can appear anywhere in the ferry boat, but in the past, the ferry boat spirit would not voluntarily leave the formation that controlled the ferry boat. Moreover, Lu Chen always felt that today's Xianzhou artifact spirit looked strange. Her eyes were always staring at him. Although there was still no expression on her face, Lu Chen always felt that she seemed to be someone's thoughts. Lu Chen glanced at the system information again. The system still showed that Fiheng Immortal Boat's weapon spirit was a weapon spirit and had no other identity. Lu Chen couldn't help but wonder, could it be that this weapon spirit already possesses wisdom close to that of a human? It seems that it is not a strange thing in the world of cultivators that weapon spirits possess human wisdom. When he was on Earth, he had read many similar novels. Of course, it cannot be determined that the immortal boat artifact spirit has wisdom just because she has moved her position. After all, she is the immortal boat artifact spirit, and she can appear anywhere on the immortal boat. Thinking of this, Lu Chen looked at Empress Tianhong again. Empress Tianhong is extremely beautiful and exudes a cold and noble temperament, which makes people dare not look directly into her eyes. Lu Chen thought in his mind that if the immortal boat artifact spirit were human, the score would definitely be over 90. Thinking of this, Lu Chen became a little more restless, and then he began to hit Nangang Yuehua hard. At this time, Empress Tianhong also noticed that Lu Chen was staring directly at her. Seeing this little thing doing that kind of thing while staring at her, Empress Tianhong felt that she was offended. Empress Tianhong seriously doubted whether he had also developed a strong interest in her as a weapon spirit. Although she is not a real weapon spirit in essence, she now appears in front of Lu Chen as a weapon spirit. If this guy has thoughts about her as a weapon spirit, then he is really hopeless. Seeing Lu Chen's speed getting faster and faster, Empress Tianhong suddenly felt something strange in her heart. Could this little thing really be interested in her? Although there was no expression on her face, she felt some repulsion towards Lu Chen in her heart. She was also an empress after all. No one dared to look at her head-on before, but now she was reduced to being treated as a drinking dish by others. At this moment, the expression on Lu Chen's face became a little distorted. Seeing this scene, Empress Tianhong couldn't bear it anymore. How ugly! Immediately, Empress Tianhong left the hall and returned to the formation plate that controlled the ferry boat. After Lu Chen recovered, he breathed a deep sigh of relief. When he saw the corner of the hall again, he found that the immortal boat artifact spirit was no longer there. Lu Chen thought to himself, could she really have the same wisdom as humans? Forget it, we will find out later. The top priority is to get Nangang Yuehua pregnant with Xia Shija as soon as possible. Then Lu Chen stopped thinking about it and focused all his energy on Nangang Yuehua. 1 month later, Lu Chen finally heard the system prompt sound in his ears. Congratulations to the host for helping his wife and concubine Nangang Yuehua conceive the child world, and will be rewarded with a void refining pill. After hearing the system prompt, Lu Chen finally stopped, and Nangang Yuehua completely collapsed on the bed. Lu Chen opened the system interface and glanced at the effects of the void refining pill. Void refining pill, a holy level pill. After being taken by a monk in the transformation of God realm, there is a high probability of breaking through to the return to ruins realm. Seeing this introduction, Lu Chen was stunned. The effect is so good? He has been stuck in the realm of transformation for some time. In recent days, his cultivation has not fluctuated at all. It is useless whether you practice dual cultivation or practice alone. Of course, this is actually normal in the world of cultivation. If monks could improve their cultivation as easily as Lu Chen, the world of cultivation would have been filled with emperors long ago. Lu Chen also understood that his cultivation level was improving relatively quickly, but after experiencing the state of rapid improvement in cultivation level, he could no longer tolerate the days when his cultivation level remained unchanged. Lu Chen was thinking to himself, he didn't know if this elixir was effective or not, and whether it could help him break through to the return to ruin realm in one go. The system introduction said that there is a high probability. Since it is a probability, there are 2 possibilities. No matter whether it helps to break through to the Gigzu realm or not, it will always improve his cultivation. Thinking of this, Lu Chen took out the pill without hesitation. Seeing this scene, Nangang Yuehua, who was breathing heavily, was slightly stunned. Is Lu Chen taking drugs? What kind of pill did Lu Chen take? He wouldn't. Thinking of what she had experienced in the past month, Nangang Yuehua's cheeks, which were originally full of red clouds, turned a little pale. She had never seen Lu Chen take pills in the middle of the process before. Lu Chen was so fierce without taking pills. If he took pills, wouldn't it be? Nangang Yuehua hurriedly said, Your Majesty. Who? Your Majesty, it's almost done, right? Lu Chen did not answer Nangang Yuehua's question, but quietly felt the medicinal power of the Liangsu pill dissipating in his body. The next moment, the medicinal power of Liang Sudan spread all over his body, and Lu Chen's spiritual power instantly became agitated. Then Lu Chen's sea of consciousness expanded rapidly, and the danshan in his body seemed to turn into a vast ocean. The Gigzu realm is a qualitative change for cultivators. Now Lu Chen feels very wonderful, as if the entire Qinren world is under his control. Lu Chen is somewhat fortunate that he did not attack Li Hongyun, who was already in the first level of the Gigzu realm in the Liayan world. Although he also had the strength of the Gigzu realm after wearing the Shengui battle armor at that time, there is still a big difference between the cultivation of the Gigzu realm and the strength of the Gigzu realm. The strength of the Gigzu realm is at most similar to that of the Gigzu realm when attacking, but when it comes to fighting, the Huashan realm is most likely not the opponent of the Gigzu realm strongman. End of this chapter. Chapter 854 Lu Chen and number 039, S cultivation reaches the Gigzu realm. At this time, Nangang Yuehua was extremely nervous and a look of panic appeared on her face. She and Lu Chen were close, and she clearly felt the restlessness of Lu Chen's spiritual power, and Lu Chen's strength seemed to have become stronger. This was obviously the effect of the pill Lu Chen had taken just now. When she thought that Lu Chen would continue to do that kind of thing next, Nangang Yuehua's whole body couldn't help but tremble slightly. But at this moment, a pressure was instantly released from Lu Chen's body, and for a while, the two women in the room had difficulty breathing. This is... Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinja understood instantly that Lu Chen had broken through to become a cultivator in the Gigzu realm. If he could make them feel so much pressure, he could only be a cultivator in the Gigzu realm. He actually broke through under such circumstances. Nangang Yuehua was even more anxious. Lu Chen, who was in the transformation realm, already had such a powerful strength. Now he broke through to the Gigzu realm, and now the two of them were still in a close relationship. Then what would happen next? Thinking of this, Nangang Yuehua's eyes instantly turned to Nangang Qinja in the hall. No, I can't continue like this. I must let the fire burn Nangang Qinja. Just when Nangang Yuehua was thinking about how to let Lu Chen attack Nangang Qinja, Lu Chen put away the pressure on his body and gradually calmed down the restless spiritual power in his body. At this time, Lu Chen lowered his head slightly and glanced at Nangang Yuehua. Nangang Yuehua's original dignified and noble temperament had disappeared, replaced by the charming style of a mature woman. Her hair was messy, her bun had long been scattered, and her jade cheeks were covered with red clouds. Seeing Lu Chen staring at her, Nangang Yuehua said again, "Your Majesty! Your Majesty!" Nangang Yuehua was interrupted by Lu Chen before she finished speaking. "You are already pregnant with a sub-world. It will take about 1 to 2 years to conceive a sub-world." Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua felt relieved. Since she was already pregnant with a sub-world, did she not need to continue? Thinking of this, Nangang Yuehua closed her eyes slightly, and then used her consciousness to explore her body. Soon, Nangang Yuehua found that there was a dark and desolate world in her body. After a while, Nangang Yuehua's consciousness withdrew from the sub-world. Just as she was about to say something, the next moment, a strange force surged out from the dark world in her body. Immediately afterwards, she felt that her cultivation was rapidly improving. Nangang Yuehua was stunned again. This is... She quickly closed her eyes again, trying to calm the restlessness of her spiritual power caused by the improvement of her realm. Feeling Nangang Yuehua's aura rising, Nangang Qinja showed a confused expression on her face. Is this the benefit brought by the sub-world? It actually allowed Nangang Yuehua to break through several small realms in such a short time. At this time, Nangang Qinja did not feel jealous. She took the initiative to give up this opportunity, and sooner or later it would be her turn, so she was not in a hurry at all. On the contrary, she used the photo stone to record a lot of good scenes this month. Not long after, Nangang Yuehua calmed down the restless spiritual power in her body, but after feeling Lu Chen's heat, the spiritual power in Nangang Yuehua's body became disordered again. After Nangang Yuehua opened her eyes, she stared at Lu Chen. Thank you, Your Majesty. Lu Chen smiled and said, "You are my wife, why are you thanking me?" Nangang Yuehua asked, "Your Majesty, I just broke through and want to stabilize my cultivation. Why don't you let Kinja come and replace me temporarily?" Hearing Nangang Yuehua's words, Nangang Kinja in the hall was stunned. Nangang Yuehua was trying to draw the fire on her. But she didn't care about these. She was different from Nangang Yuehua. She was eager to get Lu Chen's favor. Lu Chen naturally knew that Nangang Yuehua was making an excuse, but his eyes still turned to Nangang Kinja in the hall. Nangang Kinja's expressionless jade cheeks were flushed, and the whole person looked cold and charming. Nangang Kinja saw that Lu Chen had been staring at her, so she understood what Lu Chen meant, and started to undress before Lu Chen opened his mouth. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen immediately stopped her and said, "Wait." Nangang Kinja was slightly stunned. She thought Lu Chen was going to favor her next, so why did he ask her to wait again? Could it be that Lu Chen didn't think so? When Nangang Kinja was stunned, Lu Chen continued, "Come here first." Nangang Kinja came back to her senses. She had basically guessed Lu Chen's thoughts. Lu Chen was good at understanding people, so he liked to do some things himself. Nangang Kinja did not hesitate and came directly in front of Lu Chen. Lu Chen then slowly withdrew. After Lu Chen stood up, Nangang Yuehua took a deep breath. Finally, as soon as Nangang Kinja came in front of Lu Chen threw her down without hesitation, and the next moment there was a tearing sound. Nangang Yuehua glanced at Nangang Kinja and Lu Chen expressionlessly, and snorted in her heart. After Lu Chen broke through the Gigzu realm, his strength increased again. In the following half a month, Nangang Kinja and Nangang Yuehua suffered a lot. After Lu Chen's matter was over, Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Kinja hurried back to the Xiang world. They did not hesitate at all and looked like they were escaping for their lives. After the two women left, Lu Chen did not return to the Tianchen world in the first world. He noticed that his body had changed a lot. In his body, a vast world also appeared. This world was so vast that even his consciousness could not cover it completely. This puzzled Lu Chen. It was obviously his inner world, why couldn't he control it completely? Logically, after the cultivator opened up the inner world, the entire inner world should be covered by the consciousness. Lu Chen thought that when he was alive and his strength became stronger and his realm became higher, his consciousness would be able to cover the entire inner world. Lu Chen did not care too much about the inner world. For him, more inner worlds were at most equivalent to one more place to put things, which was not very useful at present. The inner world of Gigzu realm could not hold living things. Only when he became a saint could the inner world have life, which was not even comparable to the subworld of his wives and concubines. Moreover, the inner world had no original power, which did not seem to help improve his cultivation. Lu Chen did not focus on the inner world. He planned to go to the starry sky to try the power of Gigzu realm, but at this moment, the system prompt sounded. The host has reached Gigzu realm, can unlock the seal of the Samsara stone, and help Tianchen world to improve the laws of heaven. Hearing the system prompt sound, Lu Chen came back to his senses. He almost forgot about this matter. He had already obtained the materials to repair Tianchen world and had been waiting for a breakthrough in his cultivation. Although he might not stay in Tianchen world in the future, Tianchen world has brought him so many good memories after all. Since Tianchen world can be repaired now, let's repair it. Thinking of this, Lu Chen found the general of the Zhanlong army stationed in Qunren world, told him some things, and then returned to Tianchen world. End of this chapter. Chapter 855 Illusion. When the Fiheng immortal boat was about to reach the Tianchen world, Lu Chen found something wrong. There seemed to be a barrier outside the Tianchen world. In the past, he was only in the transformation realm, and he could not sense the barrier with his cultivation in the transformation realm, but now his perception is stronger, and he can see the barrier clearly. Soon Lu Chen remembered what the cultivators in the flame world had said. At that time, the people in the flame world believed that the Tianchen world had a powerful ban, which made the flame world have not discovered the Tianchen world. When he heard that there was a ban in the Tianchen world, he deliberately explored around the Tianchen world, but he didn't find anything. He thought it was a system method, and the system hid the Tianchen world. Now it seems that there is indeed a ban in the Tianchen world. Lu Chen got off the immortal boat, and then walked around the Tianchen world again. The ban in the Tianchen world seemed to have expired. Lu Chen tried to activate the restriction again, but found that he could not find a way to activate it. This restriction did not have a formation core, but simply some special power that surrounded the Tianchen world and the Xiang world. Lu Chen thought to himself, it must be a system method. This restriction did not even have a formation to activate. Such a pure restriction power was very much like a law power. He originally thought that if he could control this restriction, he might be able to use the restriction to hide the Tianchen world in the future, so that when enemies came to the Chaos Star Sea in the future, they would not be able to find the Tianchen world. But it seems that this restriction is not something he can control. Thinking of this, Lu Chen no longer paid attention to this restriction. The most urgent thing was to repair the Tianchen world. Then Lu Chen returned to the Tianchen world. As soon as he entered the Tianchen world, he felt that the heavenly Dao consciousness was approaching him, and he also shared his luck with him, which seemed to be trying to please him. Seeing the fawning look of the heavenly Dao consciousness, Lu Chen was speechless. This guy seemed to be saying, "Uncle, welcome back." Lu Chen chuckled. This guy didn't know that he had to repair the laws of the Tianchen world. Okay, keep this little bit of luck. I don't need it for the time being. Most of Lu Chen's family members now live in the Tianchen world. If the luck of the Tianchen world is lost too much, the Tianchen world will easily encounter some troubles, and even his wife, concubines, and children will be affected. After hearing Lu Chen's words, the heavenly Dao consciousness did not continue to distribute luck to Lu Chen. Lu Chen did not hesitate. He directly took out the things needed to complete the heavenly Dao law. As the things to complete the heavenly Dao came out of Lu Chen's space ring one by one, the heavenly Dao consciousness seemed to become excited. It seemed to really know what Lu Chen was going to do next. When Wuxiang Lu came out, the heavenly Dao consciousness became more excited. Even Lu Chen felt the excitement of the heavenly Dao. The heavenly Dao consciousness took the initiative to approach the small willow tree floating in front of Lu Chen. Lu Chen ignored the heavenly Dao consciousness. He asked in his mind, "System, what should I do next?" This was the first time Lu Chen had done something like repairing the heavenly Dao. He had no experience at all and didn't know how to proceed. He could only let the system teach him. After hearing Lu Chen's words, the system prompt sounded. The host needs to unlock the first seal of the Samsara stone first. Lu Chen looked at the Samsara stone in front of him, which was emitting colorful light, and then asked, "How do I unlock it?" He didn't know how to repair the heavenly Dao, and he didn't know how to unlock the Samsara stone either. The system continued to prompt, "Drop the host's blood into the Samsara stone, and then the host will be able to feel the seal in the Samsara stone." Lu Chen didn't think much about it and did what the system said. As a drop of blood from his finger fell on the Samsara stone instantly emitted a brighter colorful light. The next moment, Lu Chen found himself in a place full of flowers all over the mountains and plains. This is... Lu Chen was stunned. Illusion? Or was he teleported to a small world? Lu Chen quickly pinched his arm and found that the pain was real. This... Could it be that he was really pulled into a small world? Just when Lu Chen was confused, he suddenly found that on the hill in the distance, a woman and a man were hugging and kissing each other. Lu Chen then asked the system in his mind, "System, where is this place?" After the voice fell, the system did not answer Lu Chen's question. After a long while, there was still no sound, as if it had disappeared. Lu Chen tried to call the system again, "System, are you still there?" Still no response. Lu Chen frowned. Could this place really be an illusion? Or is this a real world that can isolate him from the system? No matter what, go over and ask those two people first, maybe they know where this place is. Then Lu Chen planned to use the teleportation to go directly to the two men and women who were kissing passionately. As a result, he found that his spiritual power was sealed at this time. Not only the spiritual power, but also the original power could not be felt. The power of origin is the supreme power of this universe. What means can be used to seal the power of origin? At this time, Lu Chen was just an ordinary person. There was no other way, so Lu Chen had to walk towards the two men and women who were kissing passionately in the distance. The two men and women seemed very close, but Lu Chen walked for nearly a day and didn't get to them. Without spiritual power, Lu Chen's consumption was very large, and he now felt extremely tired. But in order to leave this place, Lu Chen had to continue to insist on walking towards the two people. 1 day, 2 days, a week, a month, half a year, a year. Finally, more than a year passed, and Lu Chen still didn't get to the front of the two people, and the two people seemed to have never seen him at all. During this year, the couple not only kissed, but also did things between men and women in the flowers. Lu Chen felt that he was going crazy. What kind of a hell is this place? I have been walking for a year, but I still haven't reached the end. At this time, Lu Chen was a little annoyed. It was all because of that dog system that insisted on letting him lift the seal of the reincarnation stone. Now, the seal of the reincarnation stone has not been lifted, and as a result, he can't go back. At this time, the appearance of his wives and children kept replaying in his mind. When he thought of his women and children, Lu Chen gritted his teeth and continued to walk towards the couple. Lu Chen now seriously suspected that the couple had set up some kind of formation for him, which was why he could not get close to them. His senses clearly felt that he was moving forward, and he left some marks where he had walked, but he did not see those marks a second time, which meant that he did not go back to the place he had walked before. He was indeed walking forward, but he could not get close to the couple. End of this chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 856, Recovering Past Life Memories. When he thought of his wives, concubines, and children waiting for him in Tianchen World, Lu Chen gritted his teeth and continued to walk towards the couple. At this time, he was very tired. He was just an ordinary person with the power of the forbidden body. An ordinary person could not bear it for a year without eating, drinking, and sleeping. However, Lu Chen finally persisted. He wanted to leave this ghost place. Although he always knew that he might lose everything the system brought him one day, he still couldn't bear it. He didn't want to fall here now. He hadn't said goodbye to his wives, concubines, and children yet. If he didn't leave here quickly, they would be very worried. Thinking of this, Lu Chen continued to walk towards the couple with heavy steps. He wanted to see if all this was done by the couple. 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. 10 years passed quickly. Lu Chen's hair had become extremely messy, with petals mixed in the messy hair. His clothes were tattered. The whole person looked like a beggar. Lu Chen raised his head, and with tired eyes, he stared at the couple who were doing something shameful in the distance. 10 years. That was 10 years, and the couple was still doing that kind of thing. He thought that with the help of the system, no man could harm him, but he didn't expect to see such a perverted existence now. Damn, how can I leave this place? Lu Chen tried to call the system again in his heart, but the system still didn't respond, so Lu Chen had to walk forward. Time passed day by day, and Lu Chen didn't know how many years had passed. Finally, the couple was done. Lu Chen is now grey-haired and looks like he is about to die, but there is still a glimmer in his eyes. He wants to return to his wives, concubines, and children, and this belief has always supported him in his heart. At this moment, the couple stood up from the flowers and slowly turned towards Lu Chen. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen was stunned. The couple finally wanted to see him. This must have been done by this couple. When Lu Chen wanted to rush up and fight with this couple, the couple turned around and looked at Lu Chen. The moment he saw the faces of the two people, Lu Chen was completely dumbfounded. The woman's face flickered, and countless faces were replaced on this woman's body. These faces were all the faces of his wives and concubines. And the man was even more weird. The man's appearance was exactly the same as Lu Chen. This. Lu Chen was extremely confused. What was going on? Illusion? This must be an illusion. Just when Lu Chen thought so, he suddenly found that he had come to the couple, and he returned to his youth again, and even the clothes on his body were the same as when he came to this world. Lu Chen was stunned again. It was really an illusion? Why did these two people do this? Lu Chen then asked, "Who are you?" The man smiled and said, "I am you, and you are me." Hearing this, Lu Chen snorted coldly, "I am not as beastly as you." Although he was also very good in those aspects, this guy had been intimate with that woman in the illusion for who knows how many years. Lu Chen tried to use his spiritual power again, wanting to beat up this pair of dogs and bitches. Not only did the man turn into his own appearance, but the woman kept changing the face of her wife and concubine. However, Lu Chen found again that his spiritual power was still sealed, and it seemed that he was just an ordinary person in this world. At this moment, the woman's face suddenly fixed and stopped changing. The woman's skin was as white as snow, her face was cold and beautiful, and she exuded a faint halo, as if she was a goddess who came down to earth. In addition, she herself had no clothes. This scene caused a great impact on Lu Chen. After Lu Chen came to his senses, he hurriedly shook his head. He suspected that the woman was using the charm technique on him. This woman and this man have been living in the flowers for who knows how many years. No matter how beautiful she is, he can't have any feelings for her. He is not a rag picker. Just when Lu Chen was thinking this, the woman said, "Husband, it's time to wake up from the dream." The woman's voice was cold and gentle, with strong penetrating power but also very comfortable, as if it was directly transmitted to Lu Chen's soul. Before Lu Chen recovered, a strong wind blew in the sea of flowers where he was, and then all the petals flew towards Lu Chen. Lu Chen hurriedly raised his hand and subconsciously wanted to stop it, but he soon realized that his power had been sealed. As soon as the petals touched his body, they instantly entered his body, and soon, countless memories poured into his brain. Lu Chen realized that all the petals in this sea of flowers were his memories. Not long after, all the memories of his previous life poured into his brain. As memories poured in, the sea of flowers gradually disappeared. Soon, Lu Chen's eyes went dark. When he came to his senses again, he was already in the Tianchen world. Lu Chen quickly released his spiritual consciousness and explored the entire Tianchen world. After the exploration, Lu Chen immediately breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out to be just an illusion. Nothing in the Tianchen world has changed. Although he has spent countless years in the illusion, the time in the Tianchen world has only passed in a flash. Then Lu Chen sorted out his memories of his previous life. In his previous life, after he was reborn as the son of the Shenyu Emperor, he did not awaken the memory of the earth immediately. By chance, he chose a holy level technique. To practice this technique, one must cut off all emotions and love in order to become an emperor. And for some reasons, he had some intersections with the saint of Gi sect. The story of the two was like those fairy tale novels. They had lived and died together many times, and even the two almost did things between men and women. It's just that because he took the ruthless path, he finally held back, but the saint fell in love with him wholeheartedly and tried every means to become his woman. When he gradually recovered his memories on earth, his ruthless technique had been practiced to the extreme. He no longer had any feelings for women in his heart. Even if he had memories on earth, he was not interested in the saint of Gi sect. Later, the saint of Gi sect was found to be a body of chaos. His father, the Emperor Shen Yu, forced her to become the queen. Later, the saint created Chu Yukin as a clone to avenge him. It turned out that the memory of the earth was real. After he heard about the Tianyan stone, he thought that his memory on earth was forged by the Tianyan stone. So, this life is his third life now? In this life, he recovered his memory of the earth in advance, and the memory of the previous life was sealed by the Samsara stone, so he felt a little strange when he learned that he was the son of the Emperor Shen Yu in his previous life. But then again, he didn't have a system in his previous life. Why did he have a system in this life? Could it be that the system was forged by the Tianyan stone? End of this chapter. Chapter 857 Repairing the Tianchen World. The function of Tianyan stone is to control people's destiny, make everything seem reasonable, and generate some methods that experienced people can accept to help them become stronger. Some people can accept the setting of the old man of the ring. That day, Yunqi controlled destiny, letting the strong man fall, and then let the strong man guide the experienced people to become stronger. Some people can accept the setting of reincarnation. That day Yunqi forged memories to make them feel that they were reincarnated, and used false memories to guide them to become stronger. Since he has restored his memory from earth, he can naturally become stronger through the guidance of the system, so Tianyunqi may have forged a system to help him become stronger. Thinking of this, Lu Chen said directly to the system, "System, you are actually a forgery of Tianyunqi, right?" After Lu Chen learned about the role of Tianyan stone, he actually doubted whether the system was forged by Tianyan stone. After hearing Lu Chen's words, the system replied, "When the host reaches a certain level of cultivation, he will naturally know the origin of this system. Please don't think too much about it." Lu Chen laughed, knowing that the system would not tell him. But whether the system was forged by Tianyunqi or not, he didn't care now. He had to become stronger quickly. Emperor Shen Yu sent his sons to various worlds for training, most likely in order to choose a body to seize. If he does not become stronger quickly and replace his own body, not only will he be affected by the bloodline of Emperor Shen Yu, but also his future one day, he might even be taken away by Emperor Shen Yu. Lu Chen no longer worries about the origin of the system. He will know this kind of thing one day. He might as well try to repair the way of heaven. After the memories of his previous life flooded into his mind, he already knew how to repair the way of heaven. Lu Chen waved his hand casually, and the Wuxiang sand in front of him instantly spread to the entire Tianchen world. Then Lu Chen planted the Wuxiang willow in the below dragon crystal, and then let the Wuxiang willow fall on the Tianchen continent. When the Wuxiang willow came into contact with Tianchen continent, it began to grow crazily. Soon people in Tianchen world discovered a tree that was growing crazily. "Look what that is! Oh my god, what a big tree! It seems to keep growing. What kind of monster is this?" Lu Chen also noticed people's panic, and immediately sent a message, "This is the world tree I planted, you don't need to panic." Hearing Lu Chen's voice, the people in Tianchen world breathed a sigh of relief. They thought there was another crisis in Tianchen world. Since His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven did it, there should be no problem. But this tree is too big, right? It's already several thousand meters high, and it's still growing. As Wuxiang Lu continued to grow, Wuxiang Lu seemed to emit a faint green halo. After these halos fell into Tianchen world, the laws of Tianchen world were immediately perfected, and the aura of Tianchen world also rapidly changed. Very sufficient. Wuxiang Lu not only affected Tianchen world, the spiritual energy of Xiang world also quickly became abundant. After noticing the changes in Xiang world, the two sisters Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinja immediately came to Tianchen world. The two women were also shocked when they saw Wuxiang Lu in Tianchen world. Nangang Yuehua murmured, "What kind of tree is this?" Nangang Qinja said calmly from the side, "Your Majesty should have done this. Just ask your Majesty and you will know." Having said this, Nangang Qinja flew in the direction of Lu Chen. Her natal essence and blood was still in Lu Chen's body. Relying on the connection between her natal essence and blood, she could easily find Lu Chen. Not long after, Nangang Qinja and Nangang Yuehua came to Lu Chen. At this time, Lu Chen was instilling the original power into Wuxiang Lu. It has always been that repairing the way of heaven does not require the power of the source, but Lu Chen is a little curious. If the power of the source is used to repair the way of heaven, will the laws of the world of Tianchen become more sound? When Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinja saw that Lu Chen was busy, they didn't say anything and just stayed by Lu Chen's side quietly. Seeing the thick aura emanating from Wuxiang Lu, the two women had determined that the thick aura in Xiang world was indeed caused by Lu Chen. After the spiritual energy of the Tianchen world became thicker, it poured into the Xiang world through the cracks in the boundary wall between the two worlds, so the spiritual energy of the Xiang world also became thicker. As Lu Chen poured his original power into Wuxiang Willow, a golden dragon actually emerged from under the roots of Wuxiang Willow. The dragon's body was wrapped around the trunk of Wuxiang Willow, and then it let out bursts of dragon roars. Voice. The dragon's roar instantly spread across both worlds, and even the Xiang world could faintly hear the dragon's roar. Lu Chen was a little confused. What happened to this golden dragon? He could feel that the golden dragon was not harmful to Wuxiang Lu, but he was a little confused as to where the golden dragon came from. Could it be that there is a golden dragon in Tianchen world itself? Just when Lu Chen was thinking this, the system prompted, "The Wuxiang Willow is planted on the below dragon crystal." This is because the Wuxiang Willow absorbs the dragon soul in the below dragon crystal and creates its own companion creature. Lu Chen suddenly realized that this was the case, so he asked why below dragon crystal was needed to repair the way of heaven. It turned out that what was needed was not below dragon crystal, but the dragon soul inside the dragon crystal. But what is the use of this golden dragon? Just as this question came into Lu Chen's mind, he suddenly discovered that the luck in the entire Tianchen world had become extremely strong, even thicker than the luck in the middle world, the flame world. Lu Chen seemed to understand the role of this golden dragon. This should be a golden dragon of luck, which increases luck. After a while, the branches of Wuxiang Lu rushed straight to the sky, and then the sky was covered with dark clouds, and countless lightnings fell from the sky. This. Lu Chen thought to himself, this should not be a heavenly tribulation, right? After all, it was Wuxiang Lu who helped the heavenly Dao to perfect the law. If the heavenly Dao of Tianchen world could not accommodate Wuxiang Lu, it would be funny. At this time, the dark clouds accumulated thicker and thicker, and soon countless purple lightnings were galloping in the thick dark clouds. Lu Chen frowned, "Good guy, it was really a thunder tribulation? Tianchen world Tiandao wants to kill the donkey after it has done its work? Others helped it to perfect the law and make its luck even stronger, but now this guy actually wants to send down a heavenly tribulation to deal with Wuxiang Lu." Just when Lu Chen was about to ask the heavenly Dao to stop, he found that the situation did not seem to be what he thought. At this time, Lu Chen felt a weak consciousness talking to him. Although the other party could not speak completely, Lu Chen could understand his consciousness instantly. It turned out that the purple thunder was not a thunder tribulation, but a phenomenon caused by the fusion of the heavenly Dao of the Tianchen world and the Wuxiang Lu. When the consciousness of the heavenly Dao and the Wuxiang Lu are completely integrated, the Wuxiang Lu will really become the world tree of the Tianchen world. After understanding what was going on, Lu Chen no longer prevented the thunder from contacting the Wuxiang Lu. After a while, the purple lightning as thick as a bowl directly connected to the upright willow branches of the Wuxiang Lu. End of this chapter. Chapter 858. The two worlds merge completely. The process of the fusion of the heavenly Dao consciousness and the Wuxiang Lu was very shocking. The whole world went dark, as if the sky was about to collapse. If Lu Chen's voice had not spread throughout the world before, people would have known that all these strange phenomena were caused by their Emperor Tiandi. I am afraid that people would have thought that the Tianchen world was about to be destroyed. At this time, Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinjia, who were next to Lu Chen, were also shocked by the scene in front of them and could not speak. They were closer to the Wuxiang Lu and saw more clearly, so they were more shocked. Fortunately, the fusion of the heavenly Dao consciousness and the Wuxiang Lu did not last too long. Not long after, the strange phenomenon in the sky dissipated, and everything returned to its original state. The branches of the Wuxiang Lu also drooped, but the transformation of the Tianchen world did not end there. The Wuxiang Lu released more spiritual energy, and when those spiritual energies accumulated together, they turned into spiritual rain. For a time, the whole Tianchen world was raining spiritual rain. People soon discovered in surprise that when their bodies came into contact with the spiritual rain, their bodies changed greatly in an instant. Oh my God, this rain actually cured my hidden disease that I had for many years. I can actually practice. My bottleneck that has been holding me back for many years has finally been loosened. Thank you, His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven. After people discovered the effect of the spiritual rain, all the people in the Tianchen world went out to the streets to get wet in the rain. At this time, Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinjia also felt the extraordinary power of the spiritual rain. Originally, the two could use spiritual power to protect their bodies so that the rain could not get on them, but they did not do so. They let the spiritual rain fall on them. After the spiritual rain fell on the two, it entered their bodies. Then they felt as if their bodies had been transformed, and their absorption of spiritual power became smoother. This spiritual rain did not last long, but things were still not over. At this time, the Tianchen world was growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The world fragments near the Tianchen world were pulled into the Tianchen world by a huge gravitational force and formed a new continent. At this time, the fusion of the Xiang world and the Tianchen world also began to accelerate, and the two worlds merged with each other at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing the boundary wall between Tianchen world and Xiang world gradually dissipate, Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinjia were stunned. The reason why Lu Chen asked them to be the managers of Xiang world was because Xiang world and Tianchen world were two worlds and it was not convenient to manage. If Xiang world was completely integrated with Tianchen world, Lu Chen would definitely let Great Xia Dynasty directly control the entire Xiang world. But then again, there would be no Xiang world at that time. Nangang Yuehua had some complicated emotions. She was naturally reluctant to give up the power in her hands, but she also understood that she had no room for bargaining in front of this man. Forget it, some things should be put down by herself. She should focus on cultivation in the future. The integration of Tianchen world and Xiang world is still accelerating. After less than half an hour, people found that the boundary wall between Tianchen world and Xiang world had completely disappeared. As long as the cultivation is high enough, you can directly see Xiang world. However, there is a sea between Xiang world and Tianchen world. If you are not a cultivator with high enough cultivation, it will take a long time to go from the sea to Xiang world. Nangang Yuehua looked at Lu Chen's back nervously at this time. She was ready to hand over the Great Xia Dynasty in her heart. At this time, Lu Chen looked in the direction of Xiang world and said to himself, I didn't expect that after repairing the laws of heaven, it actually accelerated the fusion of the two worlds. With the current richness of spiritual energy and area of Tianchen world, it should be considered a high-level cultivation world, right? Lu Chen used to think that he would leave Tianchen world sooner or later. Although he was reluctant to leave Tianchen world in his heart, he had to think about his wives, concubines, and children. The spiritual energy of Tianchen world has become increasingly thinner and can no longer supply so many high-level cultivators. If he wants his wives, concubines, and children to further improve their cultivation, he has to go to a high-level cultivation world. But now it seems that they don't have to leave Tianchen world. After a while, Lu Chen came back to his senses. He turned his head to look at Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinjia, and asked with a smile, "Madam, why did you come to me again so soon? Haven't you had enough fun yet?" Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua was speechless, and then Nangang Yuehua took the initiative to say, "Your Majesty, now that the Xiang world and the Tianchen world have merged, it is time to officially hand over the Great Xia Dynasty to the direct management of the Great Xia Dynasty." Whether to take the initiative to hand over the things in his hand, or wait for Lu Chen to speak before handing them over, Nangang Yuehua still knew what to choose. After hearing Nangang Yuehua's words, Lu Chen did not respond directly, but asked, "Are you willing to give up the power in your hands?" Nangang Yuehua said calmly, "I am just helping your Majesty manage the Great Xia Dynasty. It is not my thing. There is nothing to be reluctant to give up." Although she said so, Lu Chen also saw that Nangang Yuehua was really reluctant to give up the power in her hands. But now that the Xiang world has merged with the Tianchen world, it is impossible for him to let others manage the Xiang world, even if Nangang Yuehua is his woman. Lu Chen then said, "The Qinren world still lacks a dynasty that can suppress the major forces in that world." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Nangang Yuehua instantly understood what Lu Chen meant. Lu Chen was planning to hand over the Qinren world to her for management. Nangang Yuehua fell into deep thought. She did not reply to Lu Chen immediately. She was actually reluctant to leave the Xiang world. And if she went to the Qinren world, she would have to rebuild her own ruling team, which would make her feel uncomfortable. But she was also reluctant to give up the power in her hands. Compared with power, uncomfortable can also be overcome. You will get used to it after a long time. Thinking of this, Nangang Yuehua said, "It's all up to your Majesty to arrange." Seeing that Nangang Yuehua agreed, Lu Chen continued, "If those people in the Xiang world are willing to follow you to the Qinren world, you can also take them all over." Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua was stunned for a moment, and then hurriedly said, "Thank you, Your Majesty." But soon Nangang Yuehua reacted again. The current Tianchen world is almost the same as the high-level cultivation world. Are her people really willing to follow her to a low-level world? The future Tianchen world will definitely develop better. If someone can enter the Great Xia Dynasty to work, it will be a blessing for some people. At this moment, Nangang Qinjia suddenly said, "Your Majesty, I am also willing to go to the Qinren world." This. Nangang Yuehua frowned. Why is Nangang Qinjia joining in the fun at this time? She didn't want Nangang Qinjia to go to the Qinren world to check and balance herself again. Lu Chen asked curiously, "Why is this?" End of this chapter. Chapter 859. I want to be a useful person. Nangang Qinjia is different from Nangang Yuehua. Compared to Nangang Yuehua, Nangang Qinjia doesn't care about power that much. And she is an evil cultivator. Although she has not practiced with human blood like before after following Lu Chen, she still retains the nature of an evil cultivator, and she herself can easily become corrupted. Lu Chen discovered very early that Nangang Qinjia liked to be played with by him. Logically speaking, she should be very happy to stay by his side. Why is she thinking about going to Qinren world with Nangang Yuehua now? Nangang Qinjia said at this time, "My sister will definitely be very lonely in Qinren world alone. I can't bear to see her alone in Qinren world." Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua laughed in her heart. She didn't think when her relationship with Nangang Qinjia had become so good. Then Nangang Yuehua said, "I appreciate my sister's kindness, but I'd better follow your Majesty. The spiritual energy in Qinren world is thin, which is not conducive to my sister's cultivation. Nangang Yuehua didn't want to see anyone trying to contain him again. Lu Chen also looked at Nangang Qinja with confusion. He naturally did not believe that Nangang Qinja was afraid that Nangang Yuehua would be alone in the world of Qunren, so he ran to accompany Nangang Yuehua. He didn't think the relationship between the two sisters was so good. Just when Lu Chen was about to say something, Nangang Qinja looked at Nangang Yuehua with a smile on her face and said, "Sister doesn't want anyone to follow her to the Qunren world. Could it be that she wants to do something shameful behind His Majesty's back?" Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua suddenly frowned. When Nangang Qinja said this, wasn't he saying that he might betray Lu Chen? Wasn't this just trying to sow discord? Nangang Yuehua immediately said, "Sister, you can't say something nonsense. Tianchen world's aura has become so rich now. If you don't practice well in Tianchen world, you want to go to Qunren world. Who wants to do this behind His Majesty's back? Something shameful." Seeing the two women starting to fight, Lu Chen laughed. This was the real relationship between the two sisters. However, Lu Chen was still a little curious about what Nangang Qinja was thinking. Nangang Yuehua could not let go of the power in his hands, so he chose to go to the Qunren world to take charge of a dynasty by himself. But Nangang Qinja has no desire for power, so what else is she going to do? Or is it that he doesn't actually understand the real Nangang Qinja, who, like Nangang Yuehua, can't let go of the power in her hands? At this time, Nangang Qinja said, "What sister said makes sense. Now that the aura of Tianchen world has become very strong, why doesn't sister just stay and practice in Tianchen world and strive to break through to a higher realm as soon as possible?" Nangang Yuehua felt that if this continued, she and Nangang Qinja might have to stay in Tianchen world. She really couldn't understand what Nangang Qinja wanted to do. What are the benefits of following yourself? When Lu Chen saw that the two women were facing each other tit for tat, Lu Chen said, "Okay, don't say anything anymore." Having said this, Lu Chen's eyes fell on Nangang Qinja, stared into her beautiful eyes, and asked in a commanding tone, "Qinja, why did you go to Qunren world? If you tell me clearly, I will let you go with your sister." Nangang Qinja immediately said, "I want to become a useful person." Hearing Nangang Qinja's answer, Lu Chen and Nangang Yuehua were both slightly startled. Useful person? Lu Chen soon realized that he knew something about the mentality of his wives and concubines. Some of his wives and concubines would develop some inferiority complex after being around him for a long time, and they all wanted to be able to help him instead of just being his playthings. Many of his wives and concubines had this idea. Nangang Qinja continued, "If I continue to stay in Tianchen world, given my nature, I will definitely want to stay by His Majesty's side for your Majesty to play with. And this slave not only wants to be a plaything, but also wants to have other values in front of His Majesty." The Qunren world is located on the border of the Chaos Star Sea. It is the gateway to the Chaos Star Sea. If there are enemies who want to enter the Chaos Star Sea in the future, we will be able to discover it immediately in the Qunren world. I want to protect the Qunren world for your Majesty and the gate to the Tianchen world. Nangang Yuehua looked at Nangang Qinja with suspicion. To be honest, she didn't believe a word of what Nangang Qinja said just now. But it doesn't matter whether she believes it or not. What matters is whether Lu Chen believes it or not. Nangang Yuehua thought to herself, "This man is so shrewd, he should be able to tell at a glance that she is lying, right?" Just when Nangang Yuehua was thinking this, Lu Chen said with a smile, "So that's it, well, since Qinja wants to go to the Qunren world, then you can do the same as Yuehua, select some of your subordinates, and take them with you. Let's go to Qunren world together." Seeing that Lu Chen agreed, Nangang Yuehua's face became even colder. This foolish king actually believed what he said. Nangang Qinja is just a witch, how could she have such a high level of consciousness? Lu Chen then looked at Nangang Yuehua and continued, "Yuehua, you and Kinja are also sisters after all. When you go to the Qunran world, don't get into conflicts just because of a little power. If I hear that you are having conflicts over power in Qunran world, then I will come over and serve you with a stick. For some reason, Nangang Yuehua instantly understood the implication of Lu Chen's words, and then she said reluctantly, I understand, please rest assured, Your Majesty, if there is anything important in the Qunran world, I will definitely discuss it with my sister. Lu Chen glanced in the direction of the Xiang world, and then said, Okay, since you are all going to the Qunran world, go back and prepare. Come to me before you leave, I will send you off in person. The two women said in unison, Yes, Your Majesty. Then, Nangang Kinja and Nangang Yuehua turned around and flew towards the Xiang world. On the way back to the Xiang world, Nangang Yuehua asked with an unhappy face, What are you looking for? Nangang Yuehua really couldn't figure out why Nangang Kinja followed her. Was she really just to monitor her and afraid that she would betray Lu Chen? Nangang Kinja chuckled and said, I should be the one asking you this. Now that the spiritual energy of Tianchen world has become so dense, I'm afraid it's no different from the high-level cultivation world. Sister doesn't want to stay in Tianchen world to practice, but has to go to a low-level world to be the emperor. Is power more important to sister than practice? Nangang Yuehua snorted coldly and said, What does this have to do with you? Nangang Kinja said lightly, Your desire for power is so strong, which is not a good thing. Once people have power, they will do whatever they want. I went to Qunran world to keep an eye on you for His Majesty, so that you don't go to Qunran world and do something to betray His Majesty. You and I are sisters. If you make a mistake, it will definitely affect me. Chapter 860 I have no interest in men. After hearing Nangang Kinja's words, Nangang Yuehua seemed to have vaguely understood why Nangang Kinja wanted to follow her to the Qunran world. She really went there to monitor her. What Nangang Kinja meant was that after she gained power, she would probably keep a male lover or do something to let Lu Chen down. When Lu Chen investigated, Nangang Kinja, the younger sister, would also be punished. They were sisters, so they would prosper together and suffer together. In order to prevent her from making mistakes, Nangang Kinja had to keep an eye on her personally. After understanding Nangang Kinja's meaning, Nangang Yuehua's expression suddenly became very ugly. She said coldly, Don't make me sound like you. I have no interest in men. Unlike you, an evil cultivator who only knows how to take yin to replenish yang. Nangang Kinja smiled and said, Oh? Is that so? Some time ago, I got a piece of photo stone in Qunran world. I recorded a lot of pictures. I wonder if my sister is interested. Speaking of this, Nangang Kinja stopped and did not continue flying. After hearing Nangang Kinja's words, Nangang Yuehua suddenly felt a little confused. Why did Nangang Kinja say this at this time? Nangang Yuehua then stopped rushing and turned to look at Nangang Kinja. What picture? Nangang Kinja then took out the photo stone and directly released the picture of Nangang Yuehua howling in the Fiheng Xianzhou bedroom. Seeing this scene, Nangang Yuehua's face changed instantly, and then her face was full of anger. She rushed to Nangang Kinja without hesitation, trying to snatch the photo stone from Nangang Kinja's hand. However, Nangang Kinja had been guarding against her. Seeing Nangang Yuehua coming, Nangang Kinja directly put away the photo stone and dodged it. Nangang Yuehua cursed, Shameless! Nangang Kinja laughed out loud, Sister, it's not me who is screaming in the photo stone, but you. Who is shameless? Nangang Yuehua instantly released her breath and said, Hand over the photo stone in your hand immediately, otherwise don't blame me for being rude. Nangang Yuehua didn't want others to hold her handle in their hands, especially the witch Nangang Kinja. Nangang Kinja said calmly, Sister, do you want to attack me? Then go ahead, but sister, don't forget that each of us has a puppet of His Majesty. Nangang Yuehua was instantly like being poured with a bucket of cold water. If she attacked Nangang Kinja at this time, Lu Chen would definitely come over later. She was a more introverted person, and she didn't want Lu Chen to know about this. Nangang Kinja continued at this time, "Sister, do you still say that you are not interested in men now?" Nangang Yuehua snorted coldly and didn't continue to talk nonsense with Nangang Kinja. She knew very well that Nangang Kinja was already Lu Chen's slave girl. As Lu Chen's slave girl, she couldn't pass on such a picture with Lu Chen's privacy. This guy can only watch it for herself at most. Since she is watching it herself, there is nothing to worry about. She likes to watch it, so she will keep watching it slowly. Anyway, when she and Lu Chen did that kind of thing, this guy was staring at her from the side. Watching it now has no effect on her. Thinking of this, Nangang Yuehua no longer paid attention to Nangang Kinja and hurried back to Great Xia Dynasty. Now that Tianchen world and Xiang world have been completely integrated, there are still many things to deal with in Great Xia Dynasty. She has no time to quarrel with this demon woman. As for why Nangang Kinja went to Qunran world, she didn't care so much now. It was nothing more than monitoring herself. As Lu Chen's woman, she would never betray him. As long as Nangang Kinja didn't make trouble for herself and didn't compete with her for power, she could stay in Qunran world as long as she wanted. Looking at Nangang Yuehua's leaving back, Nangang Kinja chuckled. Her sister was really good at pretending. Why didn't she be so cold and dignified when Lu Chen confronted her? Nangang Kinja didn't think much about it. She then hurried back to the Cultivator Alliance to deal with the following matters. She went to Qunran world, on the one hand, to monitor Nangang Yuehua, and on the other hand, as she said, she wanted to keep a certain distance from Lu Chen. When she got close to Lu Chen, she wanted to stay close to him. If she stayed in the same world with Lu Chen, she would definitely not be able to resist. Especially after being soaked in the spiritual rain just now, she found that her desire for Lu Chen became stronger. Although she was an evil cultivator and it was okay to fall, it would affect her cultivation if she fell too much. Not everyone is like Lu Chen. Doing that kind of thing can improve your cultivation endlessly. There is a certain limit to dual cultivation, even for evil cultivators. Moreover, every time Nangang Kinja practiced dual cultivation with Lu Chen, she could only stay awake and practice dual cultivation techniques in the first half. In the later period, she had no intention of practicing at all, but simply indulged in the happiness brought by Lu Chen. She did not want to completely become a plaything for Lu Chen to satisfy that kind of thing. She also wanted to be a woman who could help Lu Chen. Since she saw that Lu Chen's women were better than each other, her mentality has changed a lot. In fact, Nangang Kinja also understood that the spiritual energy in the Tianchen world had become very strong. If she wanted to become stronger, staying in the Tianchen world to practice would probably be more effective. But considering that the closer she was to Lu Chen, the more she wanted to be close to him, she decided to go to the lower world of Qunran world. If she thought about doing that kind of thing with Lu Chen every day, how could she practice? At that time, practicing in Tianchen world might not be as effective as practicing in the lower world. Everyone's self-discipline is different. If it is Yun Xian, she can calm down and practice even if she stays in the same room with Lu Chen. Nangang Kinja, as a fallen evil cultivator, can't do it at all. Nangang Kinja is forcing herself to quit addiction. After Nangang Kinja and Nangang Yuehua left, Lu Chen came to Wuxiang Lu. To be precise, Wuxiang Lu is not called Wuxiang Lu now, but the Tree of Life. Lu Chen can feel that the consciousness of the heavenly Dao is cheering and jumping for joy at this time. Its power is constantly radiating outward. The world fragments and meteorites near Tianchen world are still gathering towards the edge of Tianchen world, and Tianchen world is getting bigger and bigger. Moreover, the Tianchen world is no longer around Earth, but a complete sphere. The nearby world fragments and meteorites have completed the other side of the Tianchen world. With the fusion of the Qunran world, the age of the Tianchen world has increased by 3/4. After an unknown period of time, the Tianchen world slowly calmed down, and the changes in the Tianchen world gradually stopped. After the incident, Lu Chen exhaled a breath, feeling relieved. At this time, the illusion he had experienced before appeared again in her mind. End of this chapter. Chapter 861 I Am Who I Am. When Lu Chen thought of the appearance of the stunning woman in the illusion, his inner spiritual power could not help but become restless, and for a moment, Lu Chen's body was full of blood. Lu Chen frowned, and then directly used the teleportation technique. At the same time, Yun Xianxian stood in front of the window, looking up at the huge world tree on the horizon. She was a little curious about where Lu Chen got this world tree from. According to the memory she got from Yun Qingshu, the world with a world tree is generally a holy place of some kind. The so-called holy place here is not a small force like the Black Dragon Holy Land. The holy place in the ancient era is a separate world. Whether it is the area or the various laws, or the cultivation resources, it is far superior to the high-level cultivation world. The current Tianchen world is considered a high-level cultivation world by others, but in Yun Xiangxian's eyes, it is no different from the holy place in the ancient era. Yun Xianxian once again became very curious about Lu Chen's true identity. Just as Yun Xianxian was distracted by the tree of life in the distance, a person's breath suddenly appeared behind her, and the next moment, a pair of arms hugged her waist. Yun Xianxian naturally knew who was coming. She was about to turn around and ask about the world tree, but the next second, Lu Chen hugged her body and came to the soft couch. Then there was a tearing sound, and then Lu Chen started to get busy. Yun Xianxian lay on the soft couch, feeling speechless. This guy is really... Yun Xianxian turned her head slightly and looked at Lu Chen behind her. At this time, there seemed to be a scarlet light in Lu Chen's eyes, as if he was controlled by something. Yun Xianxian asked, "What are you crazy about?" Although Lu Chen has always been impatient, it is not common to be so anxious like today, and Lu Chen's state does seem to be a little wrong. Yun Xianxian suspects that Lu Chen is possessed. Lu Chen ignored Yun Xiangxian's words. He leaned over and blocked Yun Xiangxian's mouth, kissing and continuing to do his own things. Yun Xianxian didn't care about Lu Chen anymore, and let him do whatever he wanted. 1 month later. In Yun Xiangxian's bedroom, the music was still melodious. At this time, Lu Chen took a deep breath, turned over, and lay on the couch, forming a Thai character. The whole person looked as if he was extremely relaxed. Yun Xianxian turned over slightly at this time, sat up, looked at Lu Chen and asked, "What happened?" She thought Lu Chen was possessed, but now it seems that Lu Chen is probably not possessed, but encountered something, which made him feel a little bad, so he needs to vent. Lu Chen said, "My memory of the past life has recovered a little." Hearing this, Yun Xianxian was slightly stunned. She didn't continue to speak, she was vaguely worried in her heart. Yun Xianxian didn't know whether Lu Chen's memory of the past life would affect Lu Chen and change his personality. To be honest, although Lu Chen is a lecher and knows about men and women all day long, this is not a shortcoming that Yun Xianxian must change. If Lu Chen's personality changes greatly because of memory recovery, and he becomes indifferent or changes into another personality, she may not be able to accept it. Lu Chen looked at Yun Xianxian and asked with a smile, "Why are you suddenly silent?" Yun Xianxian asked, "Will you become another person after your memory is restored?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "I am me, how can I become another person?" Yun Xianxian said, "Most reincarnated people will have a big change in personality after integrating the memories of their previous lives." Lu Chen saw Yun Xiangxian's worry, so he reached out and grabbed Yun Xiangxian's delicate hand, then pulled Yun Xianxian into his arms and let her lie on his chest. Then Lu Chen whispered in her ear, "Don't worry, my lady, no matter how much memory I have restored from my previous life, I still love you as always." Yun Xianxian lay in Lu Chen's arms and fell into silence again. This is hard to say. The influence of the memory of the previous life on a person's personality is very large. Unless Lu Chen's personality in the previous life is exactly the same as this life, there will be some changes more or less. Yun Xianxian thought of herself. Since she received the memory of the master, her personality has changed a lot. However, it is useless for her to worry now. She can only hope that Lu Chen can keep his original heart in this life. Lu Chen continued to say at this time, before I recovered my memory, I was pulled into an illusion. I stayed in that illusion for almost 100 years. Hearing this, Yun Xianxian seemed to understand why Lu Chen had been so fierce in the past month. Staying in the illusion for 100 years must have made him feel suffocated. Yun Xianxian continued to ask, have you broken through? Yun Xianxian clearly felt that Lu Chen's strength had improved a lot, especially his combat power in that aspect, although he was already very powerful. Lu Chen replied, yes, I broke through. Hearing Lu Chen's affirmative answer, Yun Xianxian felt a little complicated and didn't know what to say. Originally, I thought Lu Chen's realm had reached a bottleneck, and the dual cultivation method had reached the upper limit for the improvement of cultivation. Unexpectedly, it was not long before Lu Chen broke through again. Of course, it is also possible that Lu Chen's memory has been restored and he has the insights gained from his cultivation in his previous life, so he was able to make a breakthrough so quickly. Just when Yun Xianxian was distracted, Lu Chen hugged Yun Xiangxian's waist, turned over, turned Yun Xianxian under him, and then sank down. Yun Xianxian looked at Lu Chen with resentment. This traitor started again. How long has it been since he took a break? Lu Chen stroked Yun Xiangxian's jade cheek and smiled and said, I saw a man and a woman in the illusion. Yun Xianxian exhaled a few times, and then asked, what man and woman? Yun Xianxian was a little puzzled. Why did Lu Chen tell her this? Could it be that this man and woman had something to do with her? Lu Chen said, Hey. I don't know them either. Yun Xianxian looked at Lu Chen speechlessly. She didn't know what he said to her, so she continued to ask, they, what did they say to you? Lu Chen lowered his head and whispered in Yun Xiangxian's ear, those two people have been practicing double cultivation in a sea of flowers for more than 100 years without interruption. Hearing this, Yun Xianxian was stunned for a moment. Then she realized that this was just Lu Chen's illusion, not real. Illusion, just an illusion. She didn't believe that there were Taoist couples who could practice dual cultivation for more than 100 years. But then again, Lu Chen could produce such an illusion. Does it mean that Lu Chen really intends to continue along his so-called life path? Lu Chen continued, my dear wife, when we settle down in the future, how about we try to practice dual cultivation for 100 years in seclusion? Hearing this, Yun Xiangxian's heart instantly became nervous, and the spiritual power in her body became more chaotic. Practicing dual cultivation for 100 years? She couldn't bear it for a month, and now there is still a lot of Lu Chen's spiritual power in her body that has not been refined. If she practices dual cultivation for 100 years, it will be terrible. After feeling that Yun Xiangxian's inner emotions were mobilized, Lu Chen suddenly became fierce. Yun Xianxian understood something at this time. This bastard. He was just teasing her on purpose. He made her think wildly and panic, and added some fun to him. End of this chapter. Chapter 862, 100 Phoenixes paying homage to the Phoenix. A few months later, Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinjia took some confidants and went to Qunren world. Lu Chen personally saw the two women off and sent them directly to their destination. Considering that the spiritual power in Qunren world is relatively thin and not conducive to cultivation, Lu Chen instilled a lot of spiritual power into the two women on the way to Qunren world. After sending the two women to Qunren world, Lu Chen returned to Tianchen world and personally rectified Tianchen world. Tianchen world has become so big, and Xiang world has merged with Tianchen world, so there will be a lot of things to come. A year passed in a flash. Mixian sect. Su Hanyan, wearing a purple long dress, sat in the sect master's hall, listening to the reports of the elders below. Since the establishment of the Cultivation Academy, Mixian sect has barely stabilized, unlike some sects that have lost talents and even disbanded. After hearing the elders report about the situation of the Cultivation Academy, Su Hanyan couldn't help but think of the scene when she and Lu Chen were trading. Thinking back to the time when she gave up her bottom line in order to establish the Cultivation Academy, she let Lu Chen go astray, and then it was out of control. Now every time that guy comes to her, he will definitely not think about taking the right path. When she thought about being played by that guy, Su Hanyan's face showed a trace of anger. Seeing that Su Hanyan's face was a little wrong, the elder below thought that he had said something wrong, and hurriedly said, "Master, is there anything wrong?" Hearing the elder's words, Su Hanyan came back to her senses, and she said lightly, "It's okay, you continue." As soon as Su Hanyan finished speaking, she suddenly felt that her spiritual power became extremely chaotic, and then a mysterious power seemed to appear in her body. Su Hanyan was startled. Is this going to break through? Before the elder could continue to report, Su Hanyan interrupted and said, "I have something else to do. You guys can handle the restless things." After throwing down these words, Su Hanyan's body disappeared on the spot. The next moment, she returned to her bedroom, and then quickly sat cross-legged, trying to calm the restless spiritual power in her body. At this time, she discovered through her consciousness that the originally barren world in her body actually grew some plants, and it was no longer dark. Su Hanyan thought to herself, is this considered a successful breeding? She continued to observe the sub-world in her body, and soon found that a faint special power was surging from the sub-world. The reason why she was able to break through just now was because of this faint power. Su Hanyan didn't know much about the sub-world. She thought to herself whether she should ask Lu Chen about some things in the sub-world through Lu Chen's puppet clone. Thinking of this, Su Hanyan opened her eyes, and then took out a Lu Chen puppet from the space ring. Seeing Lu Chen's little puppet, Su Hanyan fell into deep thought. She was not sure whether Lu Chen was lying on the woman now. If she used her puppet clone to find him when Lu Chen was happy, she might interrupt him. If she made Lu Chen unhappy, it would be troublesome. At the same time, Lu Chen was handling government affairs in the imperial study of Yanchinj Palace. Congratulations to the host's wife Su Hanyan for successfully giving birth to the child world, and rewarded with the 100 phoenixes to the phoenix technique. After the system prompt sounded, Lu Chen immediately put down the pen in his hand, glanced at the system prompt interface, and then immediately clicked on the 100 phoenixes to the phoenix technique and checked the introduction. 100 phoenixes to the phoenix technique, an imperial level technique that accelerates the cultivation speed of the host's wife and concubines. The host can use any technique that the host's wife and concubines practice without learning it. When the host's wife and concubine break through, a part of the cultivation will be fed back to the host, accelerating the host's cultivation. Seeing the effect of the 100 phoenixes to the phoenix technique, Lu Chen was stunned for a while. This technique? It's too amazing. Then he doesn't need to practice in the future, just lie down all the time? He gave all the skills to his wives and concubines to practice. When his wives and concubines improved their skills, he also improved them. He also knew all the skills that his wives and concubines knew. So what else did he practice? Is this the imperial level skills? It should be said that it is worthy of being an imperial level skills. Lu Chen felt that he was about to become a gigolo. Unexpectedly, Su Hanyan was the first woman to reveal the imperial level skills. Is it because he did not follow the right path? Thinking of this, Lu Chen stood up and stretched. Su Hanyan helped him get such a good skill, so he had to give Su Hanyan some rewards. Then, he changed his shape and appeared directly in Su Hanyan's bedroom. As soon as he entered the bedroom, he saw Su Hanyan holding his puppet, with a tangled look on his face. After feeling Lu Chen's breath, Su Hanyan came back to her senses and quickly put the puppet back into the space ring. "Your Majesty! Your Majesty, why are you here?" Although she had just thought of asking Lu Chen's sudden appearance still made her a little nervous. Lu Chen smiled and said, "What are you doing with my puppet? Are you going to use my puppet to do something shameful?" "Shameful?" Su Hanyan's face instantly showed a red cloud. Having followed Lu Chen for so many years, she could naturally hear the implication of Lu Chen's words. And when she went to Yanqing Palace, she heard a lot of stories about Lu Chen's wives and concubines in Yanqing Palace. It is said that someone used Lu Chen's puppet to do some shameful things. Su Hanyan snorted coldly, "Your Majesty, who do you think I am? How could I do something so immoral?" Lu Chen did not continue to tease Su Hanyan. He went directly to the bed and pushed Su Hanyan down on the couch. Su Hanyan stretched out her legs and stared at Lu Chen's handsome face. After a tearing sound, a hint of resentment appeared in Su Hanyan's eyes. This guy really didn't waste time at all. While Lu Chen's claws were messing around, he said, "I noticed that you gave birth to a sub-world. How do you feel?" Hearing this, Su Hanyan realized that Lu Chen came here for this reason. She thought Lu Chen came here today for routine business. Su Hanyan said, "It seems that a very strange power has been generated in my sub-world. After absorbing that power, I feel that my cultivation speed has increased a lot." Lu Chen said, "That is the power of origin. When life is born in your sub-world in the future, the power of origin will increase." Su Hanyan asked, "Then can I put the creatures of Tianchen world into the sub-world to reproduce?" Lu Chen lifted her hips slightly, and then sank his body. "This won't work. Only when the sub-world itself breeds life can it produce more power of origin." Feeling Lu Chen's little action, Su Hanyan clenched her teeth. "This bastard! He is doing evil things again." Chapter 863 Cautious Zophian. When Lu Chen rewarded Su Hanyan, he also tried to practice the 100 phoenixes facing the phoenix. Compared with the dragon and phoenix yin yang gong, the effect of the 100 phoenixes facing the phoenix is more obvious. At this time, Su Hanyan also noticed something wrong. She felt that her consciousness was completely bound to Lu Chen. She could clearly feel the changes in Lu Chen's emotions, especially when Lu Chen was excited. Her emotions were also mobilized. Lu Chen also noticed this, and the emotions of the two seemed to be mobilized at the same time. This made Lu Chen couldn't help but reveal a hint of evil smile. In the past, he had intended to pursue spiritual communication, because spiritual communication could get system rewards. However, since the system was upgraded, he rarely pursued spiritual communication. He didn't expect that this 100 phoenixes facing the phoenix gong would actually help them achieve spiritual communication. Men and women are different. After Lu Chen gets happy, Su Hanyan may not be happy, but after practicing the 100 phoenixes facing the phoenix, as long as Lu Chen is in joy, Su Hanyan's emotions will also be mobilized. After feeling her emotions being aroused, Su Hanyan quickly raised her delicate jade hand, pushed Lu Chen's chest, looked at him anxiously and said, "Your Majesty! Your Majesty, don't be like this." If her emotions were aroused by Lu Chen, and the two of them were happy at the same time, wouldn't she be completely degraded? Lu Chen ignored Su Hanyan's words. He directly blocked Su Hanyan's mouth, and then continued to operate the 100 phoenixes to the phoenix technique, and then Su Hanyan was completely controlled by Lu Chen's emotions and completely sank. At the same time, on the periphery of the Chaos Star Sea, a ferry boat was slowly flying towards the Chaos Star Sea. When it was about to approach the Chaos Star Sea, the ferry boat stopped moving forward. At this time, Lai Haoan stood on the deck of the ferry boat and said to Zhou Feiyan beside him with some excitement, "Master, the Chaos Star Sea should be ahead." Zhou Feiyan was extremely excited. He didn't expect that they accidentally found the Chaos Star Sea again. He had asked around before but couldn't find the star map of the Chaos Star Sea, but now he found it so easily. Zhou Feiyan was not excited at this time. He looked thoughtfully at the star field in front of him, which was full of world fragments. Zhou Feiyan felt something was wrong. This place was not far from the Huangshan star field. Even if it was a wild star field with no spiritual energy, it should be marked on the nearby star map. However, the name of Chaos Star Sea was not on the star map of their Kanghai sect and the star map of the entire Huangshan star field. It was as if Chaos Star Sea was artificially erased from the star map. The one who could do this must be a powerful person. At least a saint or a strong person above the saint level could erase a star field from the star map. Zhou Feiyan was more certain of what Lai Haoan said. It seemed that there were treasures in the Tianchen world in the Chaos Star Sea. Seeing Zhou Feiyan silently looking at the Chaos Star Sea, Lai Haoan asked anxiously, "Master, are we going to Tianchen world now?" Zhou Feiyan said lightly, "Don't worry. Didn't you say that there are Gigzerelm masters in Tianchen world? Just in case, I plan to find a few more Gigzerelm cultivators to enter with us." Zhou Feiyan is a cautious person. Although he also wants to get the treasures in Tianchen world, he doesn't want his clone to die in Chaos Star Sea. The world of cultivation is cruel. If you lose your clone as soon as possible, you won't die, but if others know that you have lost your clone, your strength will be greatly reduced, and it is very likely that your enemies will come to you. The most important thing is that in a large sect like Kanghai sect, the competition has always been fierce. If you get injured, your position may be replaced by others in a few days. Zhou Feiyan did want to eat alone at first, but after seeing that Chaos Star Sea is so close to Huangshan Star region, he gave up this idea. Being able to erase the Chaos Star Sea from the star map of the Huangshan Star region and the surrounding star regions, the strength of the person who did this can be imagined. He definitely does not believe that there are no other restrictions or dangers in the Chaos Star Sea. For such a dangerous place, it is better to find a few more people. After hearing Zhou Feiyan's words, Lai Haoan also felt that there was some truth. Last time, he underestimated the Tianchen world, which eventually led to the destruction of his clone and his escape from the Chaos Star Sea. Is it possible that there will be another accident this time? Last time, he had a clone, but now he has no clone. If there is any accident again, he is likely to fall completely. Thinking of this, Lai Haoan echoed, "Master is right." At this time, Zhou Feiyan thought of something, and then took out a ferry boat from the small world in his body, and then said to Lai Haoan, "You continue to stay here to monitor the Chaos Star Sea and see if anyone else enters the Chaos Star Sea." Lai Haoan said, "Yes, Master." As soon as the voice fell, Lai Haoan flew to the ferry boat that Zhou Feiyan had just taken out. Then Zhou Feiyan directly controlled the ferry boat to leave the Chaos Star Sea. After Zhou Feiyan left, Lai Haoan stood on the deck of the ferry boat, looking in the direction of the Tianchen world, with a ruthless look in his eyes. This time, he didn't believe that there would be any more accidents. Lu Chen didn't know that someone had already set his sights on the Tianchen world, and he was still busy on Su Hanyan's soft couch. A few months later, Zhou Feiyan returned to Kanghai sect. The first thing Zhou Feiyan did when he returned to Kanghai sect was to gather several outer sect elders. These outer sect elders usually had a good relationship with him, and they also had some common secrets, so Zhou Feiyan planned to tell them about the Tianchen world and let them go to Chaos Star Sea together. In the hall, Zhou Feiyan was waiting for the arrival of the outer sect elders. At this moment, a man's voice sounded at the door. "Elder Zhou, what do you want to talk to me about?" As soon as the voice fell, the man entered the hall. Zhou Feiyan quickly stood up and said with a smile, "Elder Liang, don't worry, there are two more people. When they arrive, I will talk to you together." Hearing this, Liang Enyi looked at Zhou Feiyan with suspicion, and then he seemed to understand something, so he asked tentatively, "It seems that Elder Zhou has discovered some blessed land recently." Zhou Feiyan did not answer, but just touched his beard and smiled. Seeing Zhou Feiyan's expression, Liang Enyi was more convinced of his guess. Not long after, 2 more elders from the outer gate entered the hall. When everyone arrived, Zhou Feiyan immediately built a soundproof array. Seeing Zhou Feiyan being so careful, the other 3 elders anticipated what was going on. Zhou Feiyan glanced at the other 3 elders, then smiled and said, "I asked you 3 to come here today because I found a place where the emperor's tomb may exist." Hearing this, the 3 were stunned. "The emperor's tomb? Is it true?" Liang Enyi said with disbelief, "Elder Zhou, you are not lying to us, are you? Where is the emperor's tomb in the Huangshan Star region?" End of this chapter. Chapter 864. Am I not afraid that my sister will make a mistake? The highest level of cultivation in the Huangshan Star region is only at the same level, and there has never been a great emperor, so how could there be a great emperor's tomb? After hearing Zhou Feiyan's words, the first reaction of the 3 outer sect elders of Kanghai sect was disbelief. However, this was also within Zhou Feiyan's expectations. He continued, "Don't worry, the 3 of you. I didn't say that the emperor's tomb is in the Huangshan Star field." Tong Ziyuan next to Liang Enyi said, "Elder Zhou, don't keep us in suspense. Tell us what's going on." Zhou Feiyan didn't waste any more time. He took out a star map and pointed to the upper right corner of the star map and said, "Look here first." Seeing Zhou Feiyan pointing at the blank area on the star map, Liang Enyi asked in confusion, "Elder Zhou, there's nothing here. What are you looking at here for? Are you thinking that the emperor's tomb is in this place?" Hearing Liang Enyi's words, Zhou Feiyan smiled mysteriously and then asked, "Aren't you curious why this star field is not marked on the star map?" Hearing this, Liang Enyi said, "What's there to be curious about? No marking means that there is no star field in this place, just a void. There are many places in the universe that are not marked. Unmarked places are all voids. This is the most normal thing." Zhou Feiyan smiled and said, "What if I tell you that there is a star field in this place?" Hearing this, the 3 of them were slightly stunned, and then their eyes were focused on the star map again. For a while, the hall became quiet. After a while, Tong Ziyuan asked curiously, "Is there a star field in this place? Is it true?" They are quite familiar with the star maps of the surrounding star fields. The place Zhou Feiyan pointed out is very close to the Huangshan star field. According to the previous star map, there is indeed no star field there. Seeing the surprised look on the faces of the 3 people, Zhou Feiyan said, "I have been there in person, and there is indeed a galaxy that looks like a Death Star field. The so-called Death Star field refers to a star field where there is no life world in it, and there are world fragments everywhere. Such a star field will sooner or later be completely lifeless due to the depletion of spiritual energy and cultivation resources, so it is also called a Death Star field." After hearing Zhou Feiyan's words, Liang Enyi and the other 2 fell silent. They already understood what Zhou Feiyan wanted to express. Even if it is a Death Star field, it must be marked on their star map. It is impossible not to mark anything. If there is no mark, it means that someone has erased this star field from the star map. The star maps of each star field and each force are slightly different. Someone can erase that star field from the star maps of all star fields, which is enough to prove how powerful this person is. Then the question is, why did that powerful person erase that star field from the star map? What exists in that place? If there is nothing in that place, then the powerful person who erased that star field would not be able to make it disappear from the star maps of all star fields. For a moment, a possibility appeared in everyone's mind. Seeing that Liang Enyi and the others were silent, Zhou Feiyan continued, "I accepted a disciple 2 years ago, and he came from that star field. According to him, there is a low-level world in that star field. It is obviously just a low-level world, but there are dozens of immortal boats, and there are also cultivators in the Gigzu realm. Think about it, if there is nothing in that low-level world, how can the people in that low-level world cultivate to the Gigzu realm? And even have dozens of immortal boats? Take a step back, if those people are not from that low-level world, but from other worlds, then what are they doing with dozens of immortal boats in that low-level world? After listening to Zhou Feiyan's analysis, the three of them basically believed that there was a tomb of the Great Emperor in the Chaos Star Sea. No matter from which angle you look at it, that world has a big secret. Zhou Feiyan said again, I haven't reported this matter to the sect yet, I plan to confirm it first. At this point, Zhou Feiyan showed a meaningful smile. If there really is a tomb of the Great Emperor, it must be reported to the sect. However, before reporting to the sect, they can explore the tomb of the Great Emperor first, and then take away the treasures they can take from it. They have done this kind of thing many times. Liang Enyi and the other two also understood what Zhou Feiyan meant, and then Liang Enyi said, if it is really as you said, Elder Zhou, then this star field probably has secrets. Even if there is no tomb of the Great Emperor, it is worth our personal visit. Tong Ziyuan said, what Elder Liang said makes sense. At this point, the three looked at the last elder who did not express his opinion. After thinking for a moment, the elder looked up at Zhou Feiyan and asked, when does Elder Zhou plan to go to that star field? Zhou Feiyan said, there is no time to lose. If the three of you have nothing else to do, I plan to set off today. The treasure of the Great Emperor's tomb is a great temptation for them. If they can find some inheritance in the Great Emperor's tomb, it will definitely be a great thing for them. Liang Enyi said, okay, I'll go back and take care of some things first, and then we'll set off for that star field in the afternoon. Tong Ziyuan and another elder also echoed, okay, no problem. Then the three elders left the hall and returned to their own mountains to take care of things. It usually takes less than a few months to explore the tomb of the Great Emperor, or 1 or 2 years. When they explore the tomb of the Saint Realm, it takes almost half a year, not to mention the tomb of the Great Emperor. A few months later. Qunren World. Nangang Yuehua, wearing a red phoenix robe, stood on the top of the mountain, looking at the peaks in the distance. After Nangang Yuehua came to the Qunren World, she quickly integrated all the forces of the Qunren World and created a Xiao Dynasty. Because they used the management team of the former Xiao Dynasty, and there were war dragons stationed in the Qunren World, Nangang Yuehua did not encounter too many obstacles. The only thing that made her unhappy was that Nangang Qinja came to harass her from time to time, saying that it was to monitor her and afraid that she would betray Lu Chen. Just as Nangang Yuehua stood on the top of the mountain and looked into the distance, a familiar voice sounded behind her. What are you doing here, sister? Are you missing your majesty? Hearing that it was Nangang Qinja's voice, Nangang Yuehua ignored it and continued to look at the mountains in the distance. Seeing that Nangang Yuehua ignored her, Nangang Qinja was not angry, but smiled faintly. Since I came to the Qunren World, I have never interfered in the affairs of the Xiao Dynasty. Why is my sister still so repulsive to me? It's really sad. Nangang Yuehua snorted coldly and said, why don't you practice when you have nothing to do? Why do you come to harass me every few days? Nangang Qinja said, I'm afraid that my sister will make a mistake. Nangang Yuehua was completely speechless. What mistakes could she make? What mistakes did she dare to make? At this moment, a huge meteor suddenly appeared in the sky, getting brighter and brighter. Seeing this scene, the two women did not continue to quarrel, they flew directly towards the meteor. End of this chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 865 Enemy Attack. Most of the cultivators in Qunren World have low cultivation levels, and they generally have no ability to stop the large meteorites that fall from the sky. At this time, the meteorite in the sky is as bright as the sun, and it looks as big as the sun. If such a meteorite falls into Qinren world, it will inevitably cause huge casualties. So Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinja intend to stop the meteorite. With their strength, it is not a big problem to stop the meteorite. After the two women flew into the air, the spiritual power on their bodies was released instantly, and the strong spiritual power then formed a big palm in the air, which directly blocked the falling meteorite. Then Nangang Yuehua and the other two exerted their strength at the same time, blasting the meteorite out of Qinren world. However, they did not go back immediately, but flew directly outside Qinren world. Usually, those world fragments or meteorites will only float quietly in the air and will not run around. The two women wondered if something happened outside the Qinren world, or if someone passed through the Qinren world and disturbed the meteorite, which caused the meteorite to fall into the Qinren world. When the two women flew outside the Qinren world, they did find something wrong, and many meteorites were flying from a distance. Obviously, these meteorites were indeed disturbed by something. Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinja did not hesitate and flew directly in the direction where the meteorites came from. After they smashed all the meteorites, they suddenly found a faint dot in the distance. The dot was far away from their position, but they basically determined what it was. Obviously, it was a ferry boat. Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinja realized that there might be people from outside the Chaos Star Sea entering the Chaos Star Sea, so they took out Lu Chen's puppet without hesitation. The two women's actions were basically the same. Seeing that Nangang Yuehua also took out Lu Chen's puppet, Nangang Qinja then put Lu Chen's puppet away. Nangang Yuehua then infused a trace of spiritual power into the puppet. A moment later, Lu Chen, who was busy in the Tianchen world, felt the breath of the puppet, so he used his mind to do two things at once and sent a wisp of spiritual consciousness into the puppet in Nangang Yuehua's hand. After the spiritual consciousness entered Nangang Yuehua's little puppet, Lu Chen let out a long breath, as if he was very comfortable. Hey! So cool! Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua showed a strange expression on her face, and she instantly guessed why Lu Chen suddenly said this. Obviously, this guy is still on a certain woman. After Lu Chen finished speaking, he controlled the puppet to look around. Seeing that Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinja were both in the universe, Lu Chen asked curiously, Yuehua, Qinja, what do you have to do? Nangang Yuehua took the initiative to ask, has His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven sent anyone to leave the Chaos Star Sea during this period? The Qinren world is now the gateway to the Chaos Star Sea, so all the immortal boats approaching or leaving the Chaos Star Sea must be registered in the Qinren world. But so far, no immortal boat has left the Chaos Star Sea. That immortal boat is most likely from another star field. However, this cannot be completely confirmed, because Lu Chen's immortal boat does not need to be registered no matter where it goes. Now that immortal boat is still far away from the Qinren world and cannot be seen clearly. What if it is Lu Chen's Fihung immortal boat? After hearing Nangang Yuehua's question, Lu Chen did not answer immediately. He controlled the little man puppet to jump onto Nangang Yuehua's shoulder and then looked into the distance. He also discovered the light spot, and through the weak fluctuation of spiritual power, he could see that the light spot was not a certain world, but a ferry boat. Lu Chen instantly realized that there might be an enemy coming, and then said to Nangang Yuehua, no, it should be a cultivator from other star fields. I will go to Qinren world now. If there is any danger, you should come back immediately. As soon as the voice fell, Lu Chen immediately pulled himself out of the soft jade and warm fragrance under him, and then went directly to Qinren world. Now that Nangang Yuehua has put on the holy glory armor, she also has the strength of the Gigzu realm, but she only has the strength of the Gigzu realm. If she encounters a real Gigzu realm, she is likely not a match. Lu Chen went to Qinren world as soon as possible. When he arrived at Qinren world, the ferry boat on the edge of the Chaos Star Sea was still there, neither moving forward nor retreating, as if it was stopped there waiting for someone to come. Lu Chen couldn't help but wonder, Could it be that the Yinhuo sect sent someone here? He killed the Yin Fire sect's people, and the Yin Fire sect should have known about it. Moreover, the Yin Fire sect was sent by the 5th Prince Lu Yanghua, and Lu Yanghua probably knew about it. Lu Chen did not act rashly. He planned to wait until the immortal boat approached the Qunren world. However, the immortal boat did not arrive, and Lu Chen was not in a hurry. Now the major events of the Tianchen world have basically been dealt with. As for how to govern, it would be left to his son. So Lu Chen took out the Fiheng immortal boat and waited for the arrival of the immortal boat outside the Qunren world. A few months passed in a blink of an eye. In the luxurious hall, Lu Chen was practicing the Beifeng Chao Huang Gong with Nanggong Yuehua, and Bai Qingqing's voice suddenly came from outside the hall. "Your Majesty, the immortal boat moved." Hearing this, Lu Chen immediately let go of Nanggong Yuehua and got up. Then he waved his hand, put on his clothes, and then he left the hall directly. After Lu Chen left, Nanggong Yuehua stood up weakly. She looked towards the entrance of the hall with a hint of anger in her eyes. Where did this guy get this evil technique that could make their feelings synchronized? If that guy wants to be happy, he only needs to continuously supply spiritual power. She can't bear such torment if he takes her away. If she continues, sooner or later she will fall like Nanggong Qinja. I hope the matter of the ferry boat can be resolved quickly, so that Lu Chen can leave the Qunren world earlier. Otherwise, if this continues, I will definitely not have the heart to practice. At the same time, Lu Chen stood on the deck of the ferry boat, looking at the light spot that was getting bigger in the distance. As the ferry boat approached, Lu Chen gradually saw the appearance of the ferry boat clearly. There was a blue flag hanging on the ferry boat with a big Keng character on it. Lu Chen thought that this should be the immortal boat of another sect. Since the flag was not Yin, this immortal boat might not belong to Yinhuo sect. However, whether it was Yinhuo sect or not, the fact that the other party appeared in Chaos Star Sea and stayed there for so long showed that this immortal boat had bad intentions. As the immortal boat in the distance approached, it gradually became 3 immortal boats. The people on the immortal boat also discovered Qunren world and the luxurious immortal boat like a palace outside Qunren world. Seeing the immortal boat, Lai Haoan became excited for a moment. End of this chapter. Chapter 866. You can try. Lai Haoan recognized Lu Chen's immortal boat at a glance. He didn't expect that the other party would actually wait for them at the periphery of the Chaos Star Sea. Lai Haoan hurriedly said to Zhou Fian beside him, "Master, that immortal boat is the immortal boat of Emperor Xia that the disciple mentioned. Emperor Xia is waiting for us in front." Hearing this, Zhou Fian had no expression on his face, just looking at the front quietly, not knowing what he was thinking. When he entered the Chaos Star Sea, he had already discovered the luxurious immortal boat. Even the leader of the Kanghai sect did not have such an immortal boat. A person from the Death Star domain actually owns such a luxurious immortal boat. Either this immortal boat is a relic left by the Emperor, or the owner of this immortal boat is extremely noble. If this immortal boat was left by the Emperor, it would not be surprising at all, but if this immortal boat itself belongs to Emperor Xia, then they may have to act carefully. The person who can own such a luxurious immortal boat must have a great background, and it is very likely that they cannot afford to offend the existence. Seeing this immortal boat, Liang Enyi and the other 2 also became alert. They are now more and more convinced that there is a tomb of the Emperor in the Chaos Star Sea. Whether this immortal boat is the relic of the Emperor or the owner of this immortal boat comes from other places, it shows that the Chaos Star Sea is not ordinary. If this immortal boat comes from the Tianchen world in the Chaos Star Sea, then it goes without saying that there is such a luxurious immortal boat, so there must be a tomb in the Chaos Star Sea. If this immortal boat comes from other star fields, it also proves that there are treasures in the Chaos Star Sea, otherwise how could the owner behind this immortal boat come to this place? With such a luxurious immortal boat, the owner of this immortal boat is not simple. A strong man can't come to a Death Star field for nothing, so there is only one possibility, that there are treasures in this star field. However, the three people hesitated at this time. If this immortal boat comes from the tomb of the emperor, then they naturally don't need to worry too much, just attack the current owner of this immortal boat directly. But if this immortal boat came from other star fields, and the owner of this immortal boat also came from other star fields, then they might not be able to start. After the cultivation level breaks through to the God transformation realm, it is possible to create a clone. Most cultivators in the cultivation world will leave a clone for themselves after breaking through the God transformation realm, fearing that they will fall in the future when encountering any danger. At this time, Zophion and several other elders also have a clone, so they know very well that if they rashly attack the cultivators with big backgrounds, they may get into big trouble. At this time, Zophion asked Lai Haoan, "Haoan, is that immortal boat from the Tianchen world?" Hearing this question, Lai Haoan hesitated for a moment. To be honest, he himself didn't know whether it was or not. He then replied, "Master, I don't know either." Zophion frowned again. He couldn't judge the other party's strength, so he could only test it first. If he was sure that the immortal boat was not from other star fields, it would not be too late for them to take action immediately. Thinking of this, Zophion controlled the immortal boat and accelerated towards the Qunren world. When they were about to approach the Qunren world, Zophion's three immortal boats stopped, but their three immortal boats combined were not as big as the Fihung immortal boat. In front of the Fihung immortal boat, their immortal boat was like a small wooden boat. At this time, Zophion flew into the air, and then looked at the Fihung immortal boat and said, "May I ask who you are and why you occupy the Chaos Star Sea?" Hearing Zophion's words, Lu Chen laughed, and then he stood on the deck of the immortal boat and said lightly, "The Chaos Star Sea is my territory, how can I occupy it?" Seeing that Lu Chen actually said that the Chaos Star Sea was his, Zophion was once again convinced that the Chaos Star Sea had a big secret, and for a moment, their hearts became hot. Zophion was about to say something, but Liang Enyi spoke first. Chaos Star Sea has always been an ownerless land, and it has not even been marked on the star map. When did it become your territory? Lu Chen said lightly, "An ownerless land cannot always be an ownerless land. It had no owner before, but now it has one." Zophion said coldly, "Daiyu is a little too overbearing. Such a large star field, Daiyu says it is yours, so it is yours." Lu Chen glanced at Zophion and others and found that they were all outer sect elders of Kanghai sect. At this time, Lu Chen's eyes fell on a figure next to Zophion. Seeing that it was Lai Haoan, Lu Chen laughed. It turned out that Lai Haoan leaked the news of Tianchen world. This is a bit troublesome. These people are obviously clones. If their clones are killed, their main bodies will definitely know what happened here at the first time, and their main bodies will tell Kanghai sect about Chaos Star Sea and Tianchen world. Kanghai sect is a sect in the higher world, and its strength must be very strong. If Kanghai sect sends a strong man in the Saint realm, he may not be a match. However, Tianchen world is his base camp, and he cannot let these people enter Tianchen world. At this time, Yin Zhenjai and others appeared around Lu Chen. They were all wearing holy armor, so they all exuded the pressure of the Gigzu realm. Seeing that several Gigzu realm cultivators appeared at once, Zophion and others frowned, and Zophion then looked at Lai Haoan, "Haoan, why didn't you tell your master that they have so many Gigzu realm cultivators?" Hearing Lai Haoan's question, Lai Haoan seemed a little flustered. He also knew at first that there were several people in Tianchen world who were suspected to have the strength of Gigzu realm, but considering that the auras of those people were not stable, and he thought that his master would report the matter here to the sect, and then bring the sect's strong men to the Chaos Star Sea, so he felt that those Gigzu realm cultivators with unstable auras were not a problem at all. However, Lai Haoan obviously couldn't say that, and he quickly replied, "Master, I didn't know they had so many Gigzu realm cultivators." Just when Zophion wanted to continue speaking, Liang Enyi found the clue, and he said directly, "Elder Zo, Don't rush to scold your disciple, the auras of those people are unstable, and they don't seem to be real Gigzu realm cultivators. Hearing Liang Enyi's words, Zhou Faiyan's eyes fell on Yin Zhenjai and others again, and he found that the auras of those people were indeed unstable, and their strength seemed to be improved by some kind of treasure. Zhou Faiyan's eyes lit up. It turned out that they were not real Gigzu realm cultivators. Since they were not real Gigzu realm cultivators, there was nothing to worry about. Zhou Faiyan then said, Emperor Xia, do you think that you can stop us from entering the Chaos Star Sea with these fake Gigzu realm cultivators? Lu Chen said calmly, you can try. At this point, Lu Chen added, I advise you to go back and let your Saint Realm strongmen come. End of this chapter. Chapter 867. What kind of formation is this? When they heard that Lu Chen asked the saint-level experts from their sect to come, Zhou Faiyan and others looked at me and I looked at you. They got a very shocking message from Emperor Xia's words, that is, the other party is not afraid of the strong saint realm. There are indeed saints in the Kanghai sect, but saints generally do not come out easily after being in seclusion. The saints in their Kanghai sect have already gone into seclusion, and now there is only a semi-saint sect leader in charge of the entire Kanghai sect. At this time, Liang Enyi sent a message to Zhou Faiyan, Elder Zhou, if there is a saint behind the opponent, I'm afraid it will be difficult to deal with him. Why don't we go back to Kanghai sect first and report what happened here to the section? If there really are saints, then these few of them can be slapped to death by the saint in an instant. Although they are only clones, the severe damage to their clones will also cause great damage to their bodies. They haven't reached the end yet, and it's obviously not worth suffering such serious injuries for a great emperor's tomb at this time. If their end is approaching and they urgently need a breakthrough, then they can take the risk. Seeing Liang Enyi retreating, Zhou Faiyan frowned. To be honest, he also had the idea of retreating just now, but if the other party really has a saint-level monk, will he talk nonsense with me here? Moreover, the saint's domain can prevent their spiritual consciousness from being transmitted back to the main body. Even if Emperor Xia kills them all, their main body in Kanghai sect may not know about it. So Emperor Xia was probably trying to scare them. Thinking of this, Zhou Faiyan immediately sent a message to Liang Enyi and the three of them, if there really was a saint behind him, he would have taken action just now. After all, it was the Emperor's tomb. If there was a saint there, how could Emperor Xia let them go back? Leak the information out. The tomb of the Great Emperor is also a huge temptation for saints, especially those whose death is approaching. As your cultivation reaches higher levels, each step is like a chasm. The higher your cultivation level, the more you want opportunities. The saint behind Emperor Xia controls the tomb of the Great Emperor, can he still let them go back? Don't be ridiculous. Although a saint is called a saint, it is just a realm. Monks who can cultivate to the saint realm are not ordinary people. There are not many good people in the saint realm. After listening to Zhou Faiyan's words, Liang Enyi and others suddenly felt that there was some truth. If there really was a saint, this Emperor Xia was talking nonsense to them here. Wouldn't it be better to just let the saint take action? At this time, Zhou Faiyan looked at Lu Chen and continued, it's really ridiculous. If there really is a saint behind you, we are afraid that the saint behind you will take action the moment we get closer, and will not talk nonsense to us here. Hearing what Zhou Faiyan said, Lu Chen frowned slightly. Zhou Faiyan and others also noticed the change in Lu Chen's expression, and immediately felt that their guess was correct. There must be no saint behind this Emperor Xia. Since there are no saints, are the four of them, real cultivators of the Gigzu realm, still unable to deal with these fake Gigzu realms? For a moment, the atmosphere at the scene became tense. Seeing this scene, Lai Haoan was extremely excited. His master was finally going to take action. Seeing these people insisting on breaking into the Chaos Star Sea, Lu Chen's eyes also flashed with murderous intent, but he knew very well that if he killed these people directly, the true nature of these people would be known immediately. I don't know who came up with the clone technique. It's really troublesome. If these guys didn't have clones, he would just kill them, and he wouldn't talk nonsense with them here anymore. Is it possible that we really want these guys to enter Tianchen world to investigate? This was impossible. If it had been when Tianchen world was still a lower world, he might have taken a step back and let them enter Tianchen world to see if there was any treasure they fantasized about. But now Tianchen world has undergone earth-shaking changes and has become a high-level cultivation world. The key is that Tianchen world also has a world tree like the divine tree of life. This is the big secret of Tianchen world. If the monks from the outside world know about it, someone will definitely come to rob Tianchen world. Since verbal deterrence does not work, the only way to do this is to use the last method. Lu Chen said coldly, "It seems that you are planning to force your way in. In that case, let me see your strength." As soon as the words fell, waves of cold air emitted from Lu Chen's body, a majestic ice power surged out of his body, and the surrounding void was filled with countless ice cones. Seeing that Lu Chen was releasing only the aura of the return to the ruins realm, Zhou Feiyan and others didn't take it to heart at all. They immediately got off the ferry boat, and then they also released the pressure of the return to the ruins realm. Immediately afterwards, 4 Dharma figures from the ruins realm appeared behind them. They also knew that although those people were not really returning to the ruins realm monks, after all, they exuded the aura of returning to the ruins realm, and they probably had some strength, so they went all out as soon as they came up. Seeing that the 4 cultivators who returned to the ruins realm had released their dharma, Lai Haoan was even more excited. Now he could finally return to the world of flames. After the emperor's tomb in Tianchen world was excavated, he took the initiative to apply to the sect to continue to stay in the flame world. Just when Lai Haoan thought that Lu Chen would be defeated, Lu Chen smiled faintly. Although he is a monk in the ruins realm, he has the holy glory armor on him. The next moment, Lu Chen instilled more spiritual power into Shengui and activated the Shengui armor. The next moment, a majestic power poured into Lu Chen's body. Lu Chen did not hesitate at all, and directly gathered his spiritual power, waving his fingers quickly in the air, as if he was writing something. The next moment, a huge formation appeared at the feet of Zhou Feiyan and others. The formation exuded bursts of cold air, and the temperature of the nearby void dropped by an unknown number of degrees for a while. The people present felt that the blood in their bodies was almost frozen. At this time, a strange scene happened. In the range of the formation, heavy snow fell, and it actually snowed in the void. Zhou Feiyan and others also noticed that something was wrong with the formation, and he immediately shouted, "Quick! Let's work together to break the formation." Then, Zhou Feiyan and the other 4 controlled the Dharma images behind them, trying to break the formation. Lu Chen used the heaven-level flying snow formation, which he had hardly used. Since he obtained the system, he had not used many of the things he got from the system. The flying snow formation can reduce a person's strength. Lu Chen wanted to test it to see to what extent the flying snow formation could compress the strength of a cultivator in the Gigzu realm. The formation of the flying snow array was formed, and the snow in the void was getting bigger and bigger. When the snowflakes fell on the Dharma images of Zhou Feiyan and others, they melted instantly, and then disappeared without a trace as if they were absorbed by those Dharma images. Pang! At this moment, Liang Enyi's Dharma image was directly shattered and turned into countless snowflakes. Liang Enyi also vomited blood instantly. Zhou Feiyan's face changed drastically. What kind of formation is this? It can actually destroy the Dharma image of a Gigzu realm cultivator so easily. Before he could come to his senses, his Dharma image was shattered, and then he felt a restriction entering his body, and his strength instantly dropped to the God transformation realm. End of this chapter. Chapter 868. This Emperor Xia is actually at the Saint level. Zhou Feiyan and others turned pale when they saw that their strength was forcibly suppressed to the state of transformation. They have seen a lot of formations that can suppress cultivation, but formations like that take a long time to set up, and it takes a lot of people to know them. Even a saint-level monk cannot arrange a formation that suppresses cultivation in such a short period of time. Emperor Xia actually arranged a formation that suppressed their cultivation in such a short period of time. The key was that this formation seemed to only suppress their cultivation. Moreover, in this formation, not only were their cultivation levels suppressed, but it was also difficult for them to display their strength. The ice power emitted by the formation seemed to freeze the spiritual power in their bodies, making it difficult for them to exert their strength. The flow of spiritual power became very sluggish. For a moment, Zhou Feiyan and others became panicked. If they continued like this, their clones would probably die here. Although they are all a clone, the clone is also very life-saving. Without the strong control of the main body, the clone can also be regarded as an independent existence. They don't want to die here. Zhou Feiyan then said to Liang Enyi and the others, "Give me all your strength, I will break the formation." After hearing this, Liang Enyi and the others came behind Zhou Feiyan without hesitation, and then instilled power into Zhou Feiyan's body. For a time, the spiritual power in Zhou Feiyan's body surged, and his aura became much stronger. However, when his cultivation level was about to return to ruin state again, the restriction in his body suddenly became stronger, and a mouthful of blood came out again. Several people spit it out. Zhou Feiyan felt unbelievable. How could the restriction of this formation be so strong? It seemed like it was just a casually arranged formation. At this time, Lu Chen's voice came from outside the formation, "Guys, it seems that your strength is not enough for you to enter the chaotic star sea." Having said this, Lu Chen controlled the flying snow array and continued to put pressure on Zhou Feiyan and others. Once again, they felt the biting cold entering their bodies, as if countless small needles were piercing their bodies. Zhou Feiyan gritted his teeth and tried his best to support his body and said, "Emperor Xia, we are the elders of the Kanghai sect. If you attack us, the Kanghai sect will definitely not let you go. Today's matter ends here, and we will not tell anything about the Chaos Star Sea." Hearing Zhou Feiyan's threat, Lu Chen shouted coldly, "What I hate the most is someone threatening you. I know this is just your clone, and I will know it even if I kill your Kanghai sect, but I will wait for you here to see when your Kanghai sect comes." Speaking of this, Lu Chen instantly exuded a terrifying pressure. Feeling this pressure, Zhou Feiyan and others' expressions suddenly changed. Saint! Saint realm! How can this be? This Emperor Xia is actually in the saint realm. Even Lai Haoan was stunned. At this time, his whole body was pressed on the immortal boat by Lu Chen's pressure, and he could not stand up at all. Zhou Feiyan and the others could also feel that the saint-level aura on Lu Chen was not stable, but because Lu Chen had just easily arranged a formation to suppress his cultivation, and because this aura was stronger than the aura of their half-saint master, he was so frightened that his whole body trembled. Even if Emperor Xia is not a real saint, he is still a semi-saint. Although there is a big difference between a semi-saint and a saint, there is still no problem in dealing with several of their returned Ruins Realm monks. Zhou Feiyan instantly regretted coming to the Chaos Star Sea, and the three outer elders Liang Enyi who followed Zhou Feiyan to the Chaos Star Sea regretted it even more. Why did they listen to Zhou Feiyan's deception? It's better now, and they took this clone in. After this clone died, they didn't know that it would take thousands of years to regain its strength. Zhou Feiyan no longer cared about his dignity at this time, and quickly begged for mercy, "Senior, have mercy. This time we trespassed into the Chaos Star Sea, and we were all bewitched by Lai Haoan." Hearing Zhou Feiyan's words, Lai Haoan suddenly started to sweat profusely. He didn't expect that his master would sell him out so thoroughly. Lu Chen snorted coldly and stopped talking nonsense. Regardless of whether these guys are spared or not, these guys will eventually bring the Kanghai sect to the Chaos Star Sea. It is better to kill them to deter them. What if there are no saint-level monks in Kanghai sect? At that time, they will think that they are real saint-level monks, so they will not dare to come to the Chaos Star Sea to harass them again. Thinking of this, Lu Chen took out the god-slaying sword and swung it out. Zhou Feiyan and others wanted to continue begging for mercy, but a sword energy like a mountain peak struck at them. They wanted to avoid it, but their bodies seemed to be frozen. It's also impossible to avoid. The moment the sword energy came into contact with their bodies, the bodies of Zhou Feiyan and others and the immortal boat were all turned into powder. Of course, Lai Haoan was also killed by Lu Chen with a sword. After seeing the power of Lu Chen's sword, an unknown look flashed in the eyes of Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinjia. This man is so powerful, and they are so lucky to be his women. At the same time, this also made the two women realize again that Lu Chen's identity must be very complicated. If they want to follow Lu Chen, they must become stronger. As Lu Chen killed Zhou Feiyan and others with one sword, almost at the same time, their bodies woke up in the four caves of Canghai Sect's outer gate at the same time, and their auras became very weak, and their strength also dropped greatly. Zhou Feiyan clenched his chest, and a mouthful of blood spurted out of his mouth. He clenched his fists and said coldly, "Damn it! It's all the fault of that damn traitor." Zhou Feiyan now pushed all this onto Lai Haoan. If Lai Haoan hadn't told him about the Chaos Star Sea, he wouldn't have been so seriously injured. The most important thing is that Lai Haoan didn't tell him that there was a saint in the Chaos Star Sea. When Zhou Feiyan thought of the power of that sword, his face turned extremely pale, like the color of a dead person. After a while, Zhou Feiyan spit out a mouthful of blood again, and then said coldly, "It can't be let go like this. What about the saint? As long as the Supreme Elder breaks through the first level of the Saint Realm, that person will definitely not be his opponent." Thinking of this, Zhou Feiyan stood up directly and then went to the inner gate. When Zhou Feiyan appeared in the main hall of the inner gate, he found that Liang Enyi and others were also there. The moment they saw Zhou Feiyan, Liang Enyi and others showed resentment on their faces. If Zhou Feiyan hadn't tricked them into the Chaos Star Sea, they wouldn't have lost a second body. Now, they don't know when they can recover their strength. At this time, Lu Tingjong, the leader of Canghai sect, was sitting in the hall, looking at Zhou Feiyan and his companions with a cold face. Lu Tingjong had heard about what happened. Although he was a little angry that Zhou Feiyan didn't tell the sect about the Emperor's tomb as soon as possible, his focus now was not on this, but whether there was a great Emperor's tomb in the Chaos Star Sea. A star field that was wiped out from the star map, and it was also a dead star field, was actually guarded by a saint-level strongman. If it was said that there was no treasure, Lu Tingjong didn't believe it at all. Even if there was no great emperor's tomb in that place, there must be some kind of treasure. However, the other party had a saint-level strongman, which was not easy to deal with. End of this chapter. Chapter 869 What and number 039, S going on. Seeing Lu Tingjong in a daze, several people in the hall did not dare to take a breath. Zhou Feiyan originally wanted to tell Lu Tingjong immediately about the Emperor's tomb in the Chaos Star Sea, and then use the excuse that he wanted to confirm whether there was the Emperor's tomb to excuse himself. However, he did not expect that Liang Enyi and the three of them could actually run faster than him, and reported the matter of Chaos Star Sea immediately. Now he could only kneel in the main hall, waiting for Lu Tingjong to surrender. After Lu Tingjong pondered for a while, he glanced deeply at the people present. After feeling Lu Tingzang's sharp gaze, Zhou Feiyan and the others hurriedly lay down on the ground. Lu Tingjong said at this time, "Forget it this time, if it happens again, you know the consequences." After hearing Lu Tingzang's words, Zhou Feiyan and others were instantly relieved, but they also understood that the reason why Lu Tingjong did not deal with them was most likely because of the matter about the Emperor's tomb. Otherwise, with Lu Tingzang's temper, no matter what happens, they will be deprived of their status as outer elders, and may even be imprisoned. Lu Tingjong asked at this time, "Are you sure that Emperor Xia is a saint?" After Lu Tingjong finished speaking, Zhou Feiyan immediately said, "Sect Master, the aura of Emperor Xia is not stable. He is probably not a true saint yet, at most he is a semi-saint, but his strength is probably about the same as that of an average saint. Zhou Feiyan said his guess in one breath. He was afraid that the opportunity to atone for his sins would be taken away by the other three elders later. Hearing Zhou Feiyan's answer, Lu Tingjong frowned. Even if the other party was a semi-saint, it would not be that easy to deal with. He was the only semi-saint at the moment, and several other supreme elders were in retreat, trying to reach higher realms. It is impossible for them to end their retreat at this time. Lu Tingjong continued to ask, "Are you sure that the so-called Chaos Star Sea really exists and has the tomb of the Great Emperor?" This. Zhou Feiyan and the others looked at me and I looked at you, but none of them had a definite answer. After all this was inferred by them. They had not arrived at Tianquan world in person, and had not seen the Emperor's tomb with their own eyes, so naturally they did not dare to give a definite answer. Seeing that no one spoke, Lu Tingzang's eyes fell on Zhou Feiyan. After feeling Lu Tingzang's gaze, Zhou Feiyan said quickly, "Sect Master, we have inferred all this. One of my disciples came from the Chaos Star Sea. According to him, not only was the Chaos Star Sea wiped off the star map, but even Tianquan world has been banned. The world he was originally in was very close to Tianquan world, but no one in his world had discovered Tianquan world for tens of thousands of years. If there were no great emperor's tomb or any treasures, it would be impossible for a powerful person to set up a restriction in a lower world, and even use means to erase the chaotic star sea from the star map." After listening to Zhou Feiyan's words, Lu Tingjong fell silent again. It turned out that they had no direct evidence. However, he also agreed with what Zhou Feiyan said in his heart. If there was no emperor's tomb in the Chaos Star Sea, or if there were any secrets in its existence, then no one would think of hiding the Chaos Star Sea. Lu Tingjong was also very curious and wanted to know what was in the Chaos Star Sea, but when he thought that Emperor Xia had a strength close to that of a saint, Lu Tingjong resisted his inner impulse. Then Lu Tingjong said, "This matter ends here. Don't tell anyone about the Chaos Star Sea. If the tomb of the Great Emperor is really discovered in the Chaos Star Sea in the future, it will be a great achievement. Then the four of you can enter directly. Become a sect deacon." Hearing this, the four people who were still nervous were instantly overjoyed. They thought they would be punished at first, but now not only are there no punishments, but there are benefits. At this time, Zhou Feiyan cautiously asked, "I wonder when the sect leader plans to send people to the Chaos Star Sea." Now that Zhou Feiyan was seriously injured, he would not be able to recover for a while. Zhou Feiyan thought that if there really was a tomb of the Great Emperor in the Chaos Star Sea, there might be medicine to heal the soul in the tomb of the Great Emperor, which would allow him to recover quickly. "Come over." Lu Tingjong said calmly, "Don't worry, the Supreme Elder is trying to reach a higher realm. We will wait until they come out of seclusion." "Okay, you four go down." Lu Tingjong is a relatively cautious person. There are strong men who are suspected of being saints in the Chaos Star Sea. Even if there is any chance inside, he cannot risk entering by himself. Moreover, he believed that their supreme elders should be about to break through. It would only take 100 years at most to break through to the second level of the saint. He could still afford to wait for 100 years. As for telling other sects about this and then pulling other sects to explore the Chaos Star Sea together, he had no such idea at all. That was the tomb of the Great Emperor, and there were countless treasures in it. The less people knew about it, the better. How could he tell other sects about it? Now everything is waiting for their supreme elder to come out of seclusion. There are several saints in their Kanghai sect. If they can go to the Chaos Star Sea together, they will not be afraid even if there are real saints in the Chaos Star Sea. Thinking of this, Lu Tingjong said to the guards in the main hall, "Send someone to guard the Chaos Star Sea that Zhou Feiyan and others mentioned to see if any other forces have entered the Chaos Star Sea." What Lu Tingjong is most worried about now is that someone will get there first. Although Kanghai sect is the largest sect in the entire Huangji world, its strength can only be considered medium in the entire Huangshan Star region. If someone in their Kanghai sect can discover the existence of the Chaos Star Sea, then other worlds may also discover the Chaos Star Sea. Lu Tingjong plans to send someone to monitor first. If he finds that other worlds have discovered the Chaos Star Sea, then he will take the initiative to propose cooperation to that world to find the Emperor's tomb together. After Lu Chen dealt with Zhou Fian and the others, he did not return to the Tianchen world immediately. He was not sure when those people would send people again. The few people he killed were obviously clones. Their main bodies probably knew about the killing of their secondary bodies at the first time, so the sects behind them might send stronger people. However, even though Lu Chen had been staying outside the Qinren world, he did not let the Nangang sisters serve him. During this period, he began to practice independently. It is already difficult to improve cultivation through dual cultivation, so Lu Chen plans to use the power of origin to practice and see if this can further improve his cultivation. In the brightly lit hall, Lu Chen crossed his legs, closed his eyes, and let the power of origin flow slowly in his body. At this time, his body radiated green light, and the next moment, the whole hall scene changed and turned into a sea of flowers. In the sea of flowers, it seems that a man and a woman are hugging and kissing each other. The fairy boat spirit Tianhong Empress discovered this strange scene at the first time, and she was puzzled by what happened in front of her. What's going on? End of this chapter. Chapter 870. What should I say to a weapon spirit? The Rainbow Queen clearly felt that she was still on the immortal boat, but why did a sea of flowers appear in front of her? And Lu Chen was not a saint, and this was not a saint's domain. Even if it was a saint's domain, she could still feel the faint pressure of a saint. Illusion? It didn't seem to be an illusion. With her soul as a great emperor, plus she was now a weapon spirit, it was impossible for her to be under an illusion. Or were they taken to another space? Out of curiosity, the Rainbow Queen flew towards the man and woman in the distance, wanting to see if the man and woman were real people. However, no matter how fast the Rainbow Queen was, she could not get close to the man and woman. The Rainbow Queen was even more confused, because she could clearly feel that they were still inside the Fiheng immortal boat. No matter how big the interior of the Fiheng immortal boat was, it was not that big for her, the great emperor. The key was that she was the weapon spirit of the Fiheng immortal boat, and the weapon spirit could appear anywhere in the Fiheng immortal boat. If this sea of flowers was inside the Fiheng immortal boat, she only needed a thought to get close to the man and woman. Could it really be an illusion? Her soul, a great emperor, was actually under an illusion? Thinking of this, the brows of the Rainbow Queen frowned slightly. Impossible. This might be some kind of projection. After thinking of this possibility, she mobilized her soul power and tried to pick a flower on the ground. If it was a projection, the things on the ground should not be touched by her soul power. As a result, when the soul power she released touched the flower on the ground, the flower was actually picked up by her soul power. Is this true? Then the Rainbow Queen tried to pick several flowers and found that they could also be picked. Even though the Rainbow Queen was knowledgeable, it was really difficult to understand this scene. At this moment, the flowers picked by her soul turned into some mysterious power, which actually nourished her soul and made her soul more solid. This. What kind of power is this? The expression on the face of the Rainbow Queen, who had originally looked indifferent, also changed at this moment, revealing a confused look. As an emperor, she could feel that this was definitely not the power of origin, but it was not spiritual power, and it was even less the power of law. This power was a bit strange, as if it did not belong to this world. At this moment, Empress Tianhong found that the couple in the distance actually lay down slowly, and then had sex in the flowers. This. At this moment, Lu Chen slowly opened his eyes, and the moment Lu Chen opened his eyes, the entire sea of flowers disappeared instantly, and the hall returned to normal again. When Lu Chen opened his eyes, he saw Empress Tianhong, wearing a red dress and a phoenix crown, floating in front of him. Hey! Lu Chen looked at the ferry boat spirit in front of him with curiosity, and then he stood up and walked in front of Empress Tianhong and turned around. "Hong Hong, why has your body become much more solid?" The ferry boat spirit used to be very faint, and it seemed as if it would disappear at any time, and you could directly see the things behind her through her body. But today's ferry boat spirit looks close to a physical entity, and you can't even see the things covered by her body through her body. The expression of the Rainbow Queen had returned to its original state. It seemed as if she had no feelings or emotions. She did not answer Lu Chen's question. The next moment, the figure of the Rainbow Queen disappeared and returned to the array disc that controlled the ferry boat. Seeing that the Rainbow Queen ignored him, Lu Chen said to himself, "What am I talking to a weapon spirit?" Lu Chen still believed that the weapon spirit of the Fihung ferry boat did not have human wisdom and could only understand some simple commands. Lu Chen did not think about it anymore. He focused on his body and found that his cultivation had loosened a little. Lu Chen's mouth corners slightly raised. It seemed that the power of the origin could indeed help him improve his cultivation. But the power of the origin is too rare. The power of the origin born in the subworlds of all his wives and concubines combined is not enough for him to practice for a few days. Lu Chen then closed his eyes, and his consciousness came directly to Chu Yukin's subworld. Now there are many intelligent races in Chu Yukin's subworld, including humans and monsters. Feeling Lu Chen's consciousness appear in his subworld, Chu Yukin's consciousness also appeared in the subworld immediately. Seeing Lu Chen staring at the statue erected by humans for them, Chu Yukin asked curiously, "Chener, what are you looking at?" Lu Chen came back to his senses, smiled faintly and said, "Nothing, I'm just curious about the degree to which the life in this world has evolved." At this point, Lu Chen's consciousness swept across the entire subworld. Hey! Lu Chen suddenly found that in the depths of a mountain in the subworld, a group of demons seemed to be plotting something. Out of curiosity, Lu Chen eavesdropped on their conversation. "Those humans are really too much." "That's right, just because the Father God and the Mother God are in the form of humans, they say they are the orthodox. We were also born in this world, and when we were born, there were no humans, we are the orthodox." Hearing the discussion of the demons, Lu Chen figured out what was going on. It turned out that humans thought the demons were an alien invading race, and humans were the natives of this world. Nowadays, humans are hunting demons everywhere. These demons are suppressed by humans and are suffering terribly, so they decide to overthrow human rule. Seeing that Lu Chen was eavesdropping on the discussion of the demon clan, Chu Yukin said, "The war between humans and the demon clan has been going on for decades, and I did not interfere." Lu Chen had told Chu Yukin that if a war breaks out in the subworld, let them fight it. This is a part of survival of the fittest. Don't interfere excessively with the life trajectory of the subworld. Both humans and monsters were born in the subworld. In other words, they are all the descendants of Lu Chen and Chu Yukin, and they should not favor any side. A day in the outside world is a year in the subworld. Chu Yukin discovered the conflict between the two sides from the beginning, but thought of Lu Chen's words and did not interfere. As a result, when she came out from seclusion for a month, the demon clan was almost exterminated by humans. Lu Chen glanced at human luck and found that human luck was very weak, but the demon clan provided a lot of luck to Chu Yukin's subworld. How is this going? It stands to reason that human beings are now the overlords of this world, and it should be that human beings' luck is more prosperous. Lu Chen then used his spiritual consciousness to glance at the palace built by humans. In a certain underground palace, there was an old man wearing a dragon robe. He was sitting cross-legged, and in front of him were two dilapidated statues. Those two statues looked exactly like Lu Chen and Chu Yukin. At this time, the stone door of the underground palace slowly opened, and a man wearing a grey robe entered the underground palace. The man looked like a Taoist priest. The old man opened his eyes, looked at the man in front of him and asked, "National Master, have you found the hiding place of the demon emperor? The imperial preceptor said, Yes, your majesty. Hearing this, the emperor was not too happy. Instead, he asked with some worry, Master, are all the things you said before true? The imperial master replied, Your majesty, please rest assured. As long as the demon clan is destroyed, from now on the fate of the entire world will belong to our human race. To be precise, they all belong to His Majesty. The emperor said, What if Father God or Mother God discovers this matter, will they punish me? Chapter 871, The War in the Subworld. After hearing the emperor's words, the national teacher said, Your Majesty, at this point, don't you understand? There are no father gods and mother gods in this world. If they really exist, they would have taken action long ago when they saw the demon race being beaten like this. Even if they do, they are likely to have died. Hearing this, Lu Chen almost couldn't breathe. Good man, this is too treasonous, and he actually cursed him to death. What an unfilial descendant! Lu Chen was immediately very angry. At this time, his consciousness once again scanned the two broken statues in the underground palace. Even if the lives in the subworld can be regarded as the descendants of Lu Chen and Chu Yukan, but as a human being, Lu Chen likes humans more than demons. But now this bastard said such a thing, which made Lu Chen feel very disappointed with the humans in Chu Yukan's subworld for a while. Now he seemed to understand why the luck of humans is so low. Just with such a treasonous word, the luck of the human race cannot be high. Lu Chen used the system to identify the identities of the two people at this time. Name, Shang Ju. Identity, Emperor of the Great Xia Dynasty in Chu Yukan's world. Strength, Grand Master. Loyalty, 0. Name, Mo Tian. Identity, State Master of the Great Xia Dynasty in Chu Yukan's world. Strength, Heaven and Man Realm. Loyalty, -100. Seeing the identities of these two people, Lu Chen fell into silence. He did not expect that the identities of these two guys were more rebellious than each other. The loyalty of the Great Xia Emperor was 0, and the loyalty of this State Master was negative. Negative loyalty can also be said to be a hatred value. Does this so-called State Master of the Great Xia Dynasty hate him so much? He and Chu Yukan did not interfere with the development of the subworld, and this Mo Tian did not trust the existence of the Father God and the Mother God. Why did he hate him? Just when Lu Chen was confused, he suddenly found that Mo Tian seemed to be emitting a strong demonic aura. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. There are actually demon cultivators in the subworld? Just when Lu Chen wanted to figure out where Mo Tian's demonic energy came from, Mo Tian's personal experience instantly appeared in Lu Chen's mind, just like a slideshow. Mo Tian was born in a tribe. Like other tribes, the tribe where Mo Tian was located would sacrifice things to the Father God and the Mother God every once in a while to ask for their blessings. However, the Father God and the Mother God never seemed to respond. Soon, everyone in Mo Tian's tribe died for various reasons, leaving only Mo Tian alone. After Mo Tian lost his loved ones, he resented the Father God and the Mother God, and even felt that there was no so-called Father God and Mother God in this world. In a rage, Mo Tian smashed the statues of the Father God and the Mother God. Because of his action, he gained some mysterious power from the statues. After Mo Tian gained power, after 100 years of exploration, he finally understood what power it was. This was a kind of luck power. As long as he absorbed luck, he could become stronger. Mo Tian found that most of the luck was gathered on the Shang Emperor, so he took the initiative to surrender to the Shang Emperor, and deceived the Shang Emperor in various ways, so that the Shang Emperor no longer trusted the Father God and the Mother God, and also deceived the Shang Emperor to attack the demon clan, deceiving him that as long as he obtained all the luck of the demon clan, the Shang Emperor could become an immortal and have more powerful power. The Shang Emperor believed Mo Tian's slander, but he didn't know that Mo Tian's real idea was to wait until the Shang Emperor gathered the luck of the whole world, and then he would kill the Shang Emperor, take away the luck from the Shang Emperor, and then help himself become stronger. In order to gather all the luck on the Shang Emperor, Mo Tian launched countless wars. Originally, this world was not only the demon clan, but also other races, but many races were destroyed by humans. After reading Mo Tian's personal experience, Lu Chen realized that if the life of the subworld is not guided, the subworld will sooner or later be in chaos. Once the subworld is in chaos, the mother body of the subworld can obtain less luck. If an existence like Mo Tian is born, there will be even less luck. No, we can't let it go on like this anymore. We have to let Chu Yukin and the others intervene in the subworld. At this time, Chu Yukin saw that Lu Chen's face was a little ugly, so she asked, "Chener, should I intervene in the subworld?" Although the demon race is not the same race as them, the demon race was born in the subworld after all, and they are also their descendants. If the human race continues to slaughter them like this, I'm afraid the demon race will be extinct. Moreover, the situation of the human race is not very good. As the mother of this subworld, Chu Yukin clearly feels that the luck of the human race is declining. Similarly, the luck of the subworld is also declining, which has seriously affected the subworld. After thinking for a while, Lu Chen said, "You can intervene appropriately. I originally thought that not interfering in the subworld can make the subworld develop better, but now it seems that if it is properly guided, I'm afraid that there will be a lot of demons in the subworld, and when the life in the subworld becomes strong to a certain extent, it is likely to destroy the subworld." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Chu Yukin also felt that there was some truth, but she did not take action immediately. Like Lu Chen, she can know the past and thoughts of all life in the subworld with just a thought. She also knows the little thoughts in Mo Tian's mind. She planned to wait for Mo Tian to attack the demons, then send down divine punishment, deal with Mo Tian and Shang Ju, and formulate some world rules. Lu Chen and Chu Yukin's consciousness did not stay in the subworld for long, and the human race gathered a large army to attack the hiding place of the Demon King. The demons did not sit still and wait for death. The demons united with the major races in Chu Yukin's subworld and launched a counterattack against the human race. The human army and the demon coalition met on a large plain. When Mo Tian saw that all the major races had united with the demons, he was not worried, but smiled. He originally thought that this attack on the demons could only eliminate all the demons, but he did not expect that other races would also run out. If other races could be solved at the same time, the luck of the whole world would gather to the human race. At that time, he would use Shang Ju to gather all the luck of the human race, and then kill Shang Ju to seize the luck. Maybe he could become an immortal and leave this world directly. When he thought of this, Motion was extremely excited. Motion calmed down his inner restlessness, and then sensed the strength of the demon race. He found that the strength of the Demon King was very weak, and it was nothing in front of him, but the Demon King seemed to have a strong luck. This. Motion frowned. How could the Demon King have so much luck? Even Shang Ju, the human emperor, did not have as much luck as the Demon King. No matter what, as long as the Demon King was killed, the luck of the Demon King would naturally come to him. Thinking of this, Motion raised the human bone staff in his hand, and then said to the human soldiers, "Eliminate the aliens. Attack!" As soon as the voice fell, the human soldiers launched an attack. Motion directly released the pressure of the heavenly realm at this time. The terrifying pressure instantly enveloped the battlefield, making it difficult for the demon coalition to breathe. Feeling this pressure, the demon coalition and the Demon King were desperate. How could the human race be so powerful? Could it be that the Father God and the Mother God have really abandoned their demon race? Just when the war was about to break out, an even more terrifying pressure descended from the sky. End of this chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 872 Lu Chen's Speculation. Feeling the terrifying pressure coming from the sky, the faces of the human race and the demon race changed drastically in an instant. This pressure made them unable to raise the thought of resistance. It was even more terrifying than the pressure released by Mo Tian just now. Under this pressure, they felt that they would die at any time. At this time, the most fearful were not the demons, but Mo Tian. In Mo Tian's view, he was the strongest person in the world, so there should not be such pressure. He has always believed that he is invincible in this world, but now there is a person who is many times stronger than himself. How can he not be afraid? After a while, a dazzling light appeared in the sky, and all the races present looked up at the sky curiously. At this time, the face of a woman slowly appeared in the air, and the woman exuded a holy light. When Chu Yukin's figure was fully revealed, all the races present were stunned. They were too familiar with this person in the sky. After all, they have been worshipping this person since they were born. For a moment, almost all races knelt on the ground, and then said in unison, "Welcome the Mother Goddess." Seeing the figure in the sky, Mo Tian's pupils suddenly shrank, and a look of disbelief appeared on his face. How is it possible? How could she really exist? When Mo Tian first deceived Shang Ju into launching a war of genocide against other races, he was also worried that the Mother Goddess and the Father Goddess really existed. However, as the war expanded and a large number of demons were killed, the Father Goddess and the Mother Goddess did not appear. Mo Tian felt that the so-called Father Goddess and the Mother Goddess were just fabricated by the ancient races. Even if there really were Father Goddess and Mother Goddess, they would have died, otherwise they would have come out to stop the war and stop the expansion of the human race. Chu Yukin used her divine sense to scan all the races present, and then looked at the human race. Seeing Chu Yukin's eyes fall on the human race, the humans kneeling on the ground trembled instantly. The human race knew very well how outrageous what they were doing, especially Shang Ju. He lay on the ground, sweating all over, and his heart was completely filled with fear. Didn't Mo Tian say that the Mother God and the Father God didn't exist at all? Who was this person in the sky? He shouldn't have believed Mo Tian's words in the first place. He was dead now. The Great Xia Dynasty used to respect the Father God and the Mother God very much, but since he ascended the throne, he believed Mo Tian's words and thought that the Father God and the Mother God had never appeared, and they were either legends or had already fallen. With this idea in mind, the Great Xia Dynasty had not offered sacrifices to the Father God and the Mother God for decades. Not only did they not offer sacrifices, but they didn't even repair the cracks in the statues of the Father God and the Mother God. When Shang Ju thought of what he had done, he knew that he was doomed. Before Chu Yukin could speak, Shang Ju took the lead and said, "The sinner Shang Ju violated the will of the Mother God and betrayed the Mother God. Please punish me." At this time, people of other races became extremely excited in an instant. Their Mother God had descended, and the human race was going to be punished. Chu Yukin ignored Shang Ju's words. Her eyes were fixed on Mo Tian, who looked unwilling. Sensing that Chu Yukin was looking at him coldly, Mo Tian's fear gradually turned into anger. He forced himself to suppress Chu Yukin in the sky and roared, "I am not guilty. Where were you when the people of our tribe starved to death? Where were you when the human race was infected by the plague? Where were you when the human race was attacked by wild beasts? Even if you are the real Mother Goddess, so what? Today, I will kill the gods." Mo Tian's voice fell, and the demonic energy on his body was released instantly. He would never surrender like this. He was about to seize the luck of this world, but this so-called Mother Goddess came out at this time. Chu Yukin did not respond to what Mo Tian said. He had been letting the lives of this world go without giving them the right guidance. Chu Yukin felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. However, one thing is one thing. Since Mo Tian has been possessed by the devil, no matter how tragic his past is, he must be punished. Seeing that Mo Tian actually spoke to the Mother Goddess like this, all the races were enraged, but because of the pressure, they did not dare to stand up and say anything. Seeing the demonic energy released from Mo Tian, Chu Yukin sighed inwardly. Just as she was about to make a move, Lu Chen also appeared beside her. Feeling the appearance of another pressure, all the intelligent races in the subworld were stunned. They did not expect that the Father God would also come. According to their past inheritance, the Mother Goddess and the Father God generally do not appear at the same time. Most of the time, the Mother Goddess descends to this world to observe the development of this world. Sure enough, the actions of the human race angered the Mother Goddess and the Father God, so they appeared at the same time. Chu Yukin sent a voice message to Lu Chen, "Chener, how do you plan to deal with this Mo Tian?" Chu Yukin still had some sympathy for Mo Tian's experience. Lu Chen said, "1 year in the subworld is 1 day outside. Whether you intervene in the affairs of the subworld or not, someone will experience suffering." A cultivator of Chu Yukin's level would be in seclusion for several months or even several years, which would be decades or hundreds of years for the subworld. In a few hundred years, it is unknown how many things will happen. The humans or other races in the subworld may experience the suffering that Mo Tian has experienced. Lu Chen said at this time, "If you can't do it, let me do it." As soon as the voice fell, Lu Chen was ready to take action to deal with Mo Tian, but at this moment, he found that the demonic energy on Mo Tian seemed to be getting thicker and thicker. Soon, the demonic energy actually condensed into the power of the demon. After feeling the power of the demon, Lu Chen frowned. How could there be the power of the demon in the subworld? Could it be that a demon entered Chu Yukin's subworld? Then Lu Chen immediately traced the source of the demon in Mo Tian's body, and found that the demon in Mo Tian's body all came from the negative emotions and desires of the human race. After those demonic energies passed through Mo Tian's body, they were transformed into the power of the demon. Mo Tian's body seemed to be undergoing some changes and began to transform into a demon. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen suddenly had a bold guess in his heart. Could it be that the demons in the universe did not come from the outside world, but were born from the negative emotions and desires of the human race? He suddenly felt that what he was going to do next was like a cosmic catastrophe. The catastrophe began with the invasion of the demons into the universe, which led to more and more demon cultivators in this universe and the destruction of the order of the universe. Then, some mysterious power indiscriminately wiped out the demons and all races in this universe. For a moment, Lu Chen's consciousness was stunned in the air. Could it be that there was also a supreme god in this universe? When the supreme god discovered that human greed and negative emotions created the demons, causing the order of this universe to become chaotic, he intervened, just like he intervened in what happened in the subworld now. It's just that the supreme god's handling method was more brutal, and all races were wiped out directly. But then again, there is only one demon cultivator, Mo Tian, and he only needs to deal with Mo Tian. But if one day a large number of demons and demon cultivators appeared in Chu Yukin's subworld, I would probably use similar means to the catastrophe to directly wipe out all races and allow new life to be born in the subworld. End of this chapter. Chapter 873 The Demon King and Number 039, S. Thoughts. At this moment, Lu Chen felt that he seemed to have understood the cause of the catastrophe, or the mechanism of the catastrophe. Of course, all this is just speculation, and it is not certain whether this is the case. If the catastrophe of this universe is indeed caused by the Supreme God or the will of the universe annihilating all races indiscriminately in order to eliminate the demons, then all it takes is to prevent the demons from entering the universe, or to prevent the demons from being produced. As for whether the demon was born out of human greed or negative emotions, direct evidence is needed to prove this. When Lu Chen was distracted, motion had basically completed the demonization. His human body had disappeared, leaving only a black mist, and in the black mist were two scarlet eyes. At this time, the negative emotions and various desires on the human soldiers present were still converting into demonic energy and gathering on Mo Tian's body, which further confirmed Lu Chen's speculation. Feeling the crazily increasing power in his body, motion suddenly expanded. He laughed and said, Ha ha ha, is this what it feels like to be full of power? Even if you are gods, no one can stop me. After possessing the power of the demon, Mo Shen felt that the pressure from Chu Yukan and Lu Chen was nothing at all. He already felt in his heart that he had the power to kill gods. Little did he know that the pressure released by Chu Yukan and Lu Chen had been controlled. Otherwise, no one or the demon present would be able to bear it. Seeing that the demonic field had been completely demonized, Chu Yukan no longer hesitated and directly mobilized the power of heaven in the subworld to obliterate the demonic field. The power of heaven in the subworld transformed into streaks of purple lightning rushing in the sky. Seeing the lightning in the sky, Mo Shen didn't feel the slightest fear in his heart at this time. At this moment, a bolt of lightning the size of a bowl fell from the sky and struck directly at the magic field. After seeing the lightning, Mo Tian released the power of the demon in his body. The power of the demon condensed into a huge palm in the air, and his palm directly hit the purple lightning in the sky. Seeing the lightning getting closer and closer, Mo Shen became more and more excited. As long as he blocked the attack of the Mother Goddess, it would prove that he had the strength to fight against the gods. Just when the purple lightning came into contact with the big palm where the power of the demon was gathered, the purple lightning instantly turned into countless electric arcs. These arcs split apart the big palm where the power of the demon was gathered in just the blink of an eye. Then those electric arcs gathered together again and went straight to Mo Tian. Seeing this scene, Mo Tian was stunned. How can it be? He clearly felt that this purple lightning had no power, so why was it so powerful? When Mo Tian was distracted, the purple lightning had already arrived in front of Mo Tian. Mo Tian quickly gathered all the power of the devil in his body again to block the purple lightning. However, after the purple lightning came into contact with the body of the demon in the magic field, it turned into countless electric arcs again, and the purple arcs rushed on the body of the demon in the magic field. At this time, Mo Shen finally realized that something was wrong, and his heart was instantly occupied by fear. This calamity! Ah! The next moment, Mo Shen let out a heart-rending roar. No! I'm not willing to give in. That purple lightning contained the power to restrain the power of the demon. The moment it came into contact with the power of the demon, it was purified. Mo Shen's body was also decomposed by the purple lightning in a very short period of time. Seeing that demon field was killed by just a flash of lightning, all the races present were trembling with fear and lowered their heads. Seeing that Chu Yukan's power of heaven contained the power that could decompose the power of heavenly demons, Lu Chen couldn't help but wonder, could it be that because Chu Yukan had practiced the demon burial art, the power of heaven in her world also had the power to restrain heavenly demons? If this is the case, then he won't have to worry about demons appearing in the worlds of his wives and concubines in the future. Each of his wives and concubines has practiced the demon burying art, and they all have the power to restrain demons in their bodies. Chu Yukan also discovered that the power of heaven restrained the demonic energy. She then waved her hand, and the power of heaven turned into a downpour and fell from the sky, washing away the demonic energy on the human race. When the demonic energy disappeared, the human soldiers woke up one by one. Thinking of what they had done in the past, the human soldiers felt extremely regretful. They actually betrayed the Mother Goddess. They really deserved death. After solving the magic field, Chu Yukan's eyes fell on Shang Ju again. There was no doubt that Shang Ju was bewitched by the magic field, but he also made a mistake, and it was impossible for him not to be punished at all. After Shang Ju was washed away by the spiritual rain of the power of heaven, his mind was already clear. He loudly said to Chu Yukan, "The Mother Goddess is above, the sinners have committed a big mistake, and the sin is unforgivable, but all this is the fault of the sinners. What you have done has nothing to do with the descendants of the sinners. Please let the Mother God let them go." After Shang Ju finished speaking, he took out his sword and committed suicide without hesitation. At this time, the rain was getting heavier and heavier, and only the sound of rain could be heard in the empty wilderness. Chu Yukan did not take any further action. Since the culprit was dead, the matter was over. Then Chu Yukin's avatar gradually disappeared in the air, and Lu Chen also put away his avatar. Even after the pressure dissipated, neither the people present nor the demon dared to get up immediately. After an unknown amount of time, someone slowly got up from the ground and glanced at the sky. After confirming that Father God and Mother God had really left, they breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, a big demon whispered in front of the Demon King, "Your Majesty, now that Shang Huang and Mo Tian are dead, the human race is demoralized. Should we take this opportunity to destroy the human race? Without Mo Tian and Shang Ju, the human race has lost its spiritual support. The human race is no longer a threat, so this is a good opportunity for most demons. If they counterattack at this time, they can destroy the human army. From now on, the human race will no longer be the opponent of the demon race." However, the Demon King said at this time, "Let's retreat." After hearing the words of the Demon King, the soldiers of the Demon Coalition were stunned. The Demon King said at this time, "Today, the Father and Mother Gods have come, and it is not appropriate to kill." After hearing the words of the Demon King, the soldiers reacted. The Father and Mother Gods had just come. If they started a war immediately and caused a large number of casualties, it would be very likely to anger the Father and Mother Gods. Then the Demon Coalition began to retreat. Seeing that the demon army retreated, the human army also immediately chose to retreat. Their Emperor and Imperial Master were both dead. What they needed to do next was to quickly elect the next Emperor, an Emperor who could represent the will of the Father and Mother Gods. Seeing the embarrassed appearance of the human race evacuating, the Demon King fell into deep thought. He did not let the Demon Coalition attack, not only because the Father and Mother Gods came, but also because the Father and Mother Gods did not attack the entire human race. This proved that the Father and Mother Gods also had feelings for the human race. The Demon King thought to himself that even if they wanted to wage war against the human race and recover the territory they had lost in the past, they would never kill the human race, otherwise they might end up like Shang Ju and Mo Tian. End of this chapter. Chapter 874 Nangang Yuehua gave birth to a sub-world. After dealing with the matter of Mo Tian and Shang Ju, Lu Chen and Chu Yukin's consciousness did not leave the sub-world. They still paid attention to the movements of the human and demon coalition forces. Seeing that the Demon King took the initiative to order the Demon Coalition forces to retreat, Lu Chen and Chu Yukin were very satisfied in their hearts. This Demon King was smarter than Shang Ju. Chu Yukin began to construct the laws of the heaven of the subworld at this time. It was very easy for her to construct the laws of the heaven of the subworld. She only needed to set some rules for the heaven of the subworld, and those rules would be enforced by the heaven. As the laws continued to improve, all races in Chu Yukin's subworld heard a woman's voice. The woman's voice was extremely crisp, and it seemed to be transmitted directly into people's minds, constantly echoing in people's minds. People quickly realized that this was the Mother Goddess setting rules for this world. From now on, all races in this world could no longer act recklessly and must abide by the rules of this world. After hearing Chu Yukin's voice, the Demon King felt extremely fortunate. Fortunately, he did not take advantage of the death of Shang Ju and Mo Tian to launch an attack on the human race. If he had behaved so cruelly when the Mother Goddess was still there, his final fate would probably be similar to that of Mo Tian and Shang Ju. The Demon King began to calm down and listen carefully to the laws of the heaven in this world. After an unknown amount of time, as Chu Yukin's voice faded, all the major races felt that their bodies seemed to be full of strength. Especially the Demon King, a surging momentum burst out from the Demon King's body, and the Demon King was overjoyed. He actually broke through. The Demon King hurriedly led the Demon Coalition to kneel on the ground and kowtow to the sky, thank the Mother Goddess, the Father God for the blessing. At this time, humans also felt that there was something more in their bodies, and they could also feel the spiritual energy in the air. Then, the humans all knelt down, kowtowed to the sky, and said in unison, "Thank you, Mother God and Father God, for your blessing." The human soldiers were extremely excited at this time. They thought that after humans betrayed Mother God and Father God, Mother God and Father God would abandon them, but they didn't expect that Mother God and Father God would also give them power. As the laws of the heavenly way of the child world were supplemented, the luck of the entire child world became stronger. Then, a lot of origin power was generated in the child world. These origin powers were divided into two parts and entered the sea of consciousness of Lu Chen and Chu Yukin respectively. Feeling the origin power of the sea of consciousness, Lu Chen was slightly stunned. He didn't expect that completing the laws of the child world could actually increase the luck of the child world and gain the origin power. Lu Chen planned to tell this matter to other wives and concubines next, so that the wives and concubines who had conceived the child world in their bodies would complete the laws of the child world, so that he could gain more origin power. After feeling that he had nothing to do, Lu Chen said to Chu Yukin, "Aunt Chu, I'll go out first." Chu Yukin said, "Okay." Then Lu Chen left Chu Yukin's subworld, and then he controlled his puppet clone to tell other women who gave birth to subworlds about completing the laws of the subworld. A few days later, as Musician and others gradually improved the laws of the subworld, Lu Chen also gained more original power, and his luck became stronger. Time passed day by day, and the days did not change much. Lu Chen spent most of his time practicing in the Fihung immortal boat, and occasionally went to the distant universe to explore to see if Kanghai sect had sent anyone. In the luxurious palace, Nangang Yuehua was wearing a red phoenix robe, leaning on the soft couch, and I don't know what she was thinking. At this time, Nangang Yuehua asked the maid in the hall, "Has His Majesty left?" The maid replied, "Your Majesty, the Emperor's ferry boat is still outside the Qunren world." Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua's face showed a trace of confusion. Since the Kanghai sect invaded, Lu Chen has been guarding outside the Qunren world. She can understand this. After all, the Kanghai sect has discovered the Chaos Star Sea and may come again at any time, so it is normal for Lu Chen to guard the Qunren world. But during this period of time, Lu Chen has never entered the Qunren world once, and has spent most of his time on the Fihung ferry boat. This seems a bit inconsistent with the image of that man. She and Nangang Kinja are in the Qunren world, so close to Lu Chen. If it was before, Lu Chen would definitely come to the Qunren world every now and then to confront them. Could it be that Lu Chen is tired of it? Or did Lu Chen enter the Qunren world and indulge Nangang Kinja, but she didn't know about it? This should be unlikely. Nangang Kinja has been practicing underground in the palace. If Lu Chen appeared in the palace, she couldn't have been unaware of it. And if Lu Chen really came to her palace, how could he only favor Nangang Kinja? Nangang Yuehua raised her jade hand and rubbed her forehead. She felt that something was wrong with her recently. She always thought of Lu Chen unintentionally, especially when she thought of the scene where Lu Chen did something bad to her. At this moment, a mysterious force surged into her danshan, and then her cultivation was rapidly improving. It didn't take long for her to break through to the 5th level of the spirit transformation realm. This. Nangang Yuehua hurriedly used her spiritual sense to explore her body and found that the subworld in her body had light, and countless plants were born on the land of the subworld. Her power came from that subworld. Nangang Yuehua was extremely happy to see plants appear in the subworld. Her subworld should be mature, right? Lu Chen reminded her through the puppet some time ago that when life appears in the subworld, it means that the subworld is mature. In the future, the subworld will provide her with the power of origin to help her practice. Just as Nangang Yuehua was immersed in the joy of breakthrough, a man's voice sounded in the hall. "Yuehua, congratulations, the subworld in your body has been successfully nurtured." Hearing this familiar voice, Nangang Yuehua's body trembled subconsciously. I don't know if it's too long since she did that kind of thing with Lu Chen. She was extremely restless at the moment, and the spiritual power in her body became disordered. Nangang Yuehua hurriedly practiced, trying to stabilize the restless spiritual power. Before Nangang Yuehua could stabilize the spiritual power in her body, a pair of big hands hugged her soft body. Nangang Yuehua turned her head slightly and looked at Lu Chen, who was about to say something, but Lu Chen spoke first and asked, "Yuehua, I haven't helped you practice for a long time, right? Now that your subworld has been successfully nurtured, you have gained a trace of the original power. I will take this opportunity to help you improve your cultivation." Nangang Yuehua thought to herself that this was the true face of this man, and she didn't know how he stayed in Fiheng Xianzhou for so long. When she thought of what she was going to do next, a blush appeared on Nangang Yuehua's cold and noble jade face. But she didn't resist at all this time. Seeing that Nangang Yuehua didn't speak, Lu Chen, who was considerate, didn't hesitate anymore and quickly entered the state of cultivation with Nangang Yuehua. End of this chapter. Take a day off. Please take a day off. I will update 3 times a day from now on. The traffic of the channel has increased. Although there are not many readers in the back, the number of readers in the front has increased. End of this chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Thank you.